Chapter 314. 300 Demon Kings and 300 Ghost King had gathered in the mountain stronghold. It was bustling with activity. Large bowls of wine and large pieces of meat were served. Everyone was like an overlord. The men sat around the table with wine cups in their hands, looking very heroic. The women chatted and laughed in groups of 2 or 3. Men and women had different ways of making friends. Bai Changchun had never gathered all the demons and ghosts together. Not all the Demon Kings and Ghost King knew each other. Most of them had only heard of each other but never seen each other. It could be said that this was the first time such a scene had happened in the history of the demon region. The one who had done this was naturally Xianxia. At this moment the Demon Kings and Ghost King had lost their usual dignity and reservation in front of their subordinates. Everyone had the same status, so there was nothing to be pretentious about. Xianxia was the most discussed person among the crowd. Lady Mu had mobilized a large number of subordinates to serve the Demon Kings and Ghost King. She herself was busy, but she was busy and happy at the same time. Many people were looking at her with envy. They were envious that she had gained Xianxia's trust. They thought to themselves, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys moonlight first. Everyone thought that gaining Xianxia's trust might be a life-saving talisman at a critical moment. The busy Lady Mu walked through the mountain stronghold with a smile on her face. She nodded at the crowd from time to time. Big Sister Mu. A slender hand tugged at Miss Mu. It was a slender and voluptuous woman. Her hair was tied up in a bun, her eyebrows were like willow leaves, her eyes were bright, and her face was exquisite. Her body was wrapped in a seductive black veil that exuded a feminine charm. She was definitely the best of the best. Lady Mu stopped and turned around. She smiled and said, "Sister Yu, what's the matter?" As she spoke, the surrounding women moved closer with Lady Mu in the center. The gorgeous woman called Sister Yu looked around with her watery eyes. She smiled sweetly and said, "Sister Mu, we are really envious that you have gained Sir's favor. I don't know what Mr. Yu likes. I hope Elder Sister Mu can tell us so that we can be prepared." The group of women nodded in agreement. The group of men also temporarily stopped shouting and pricked up their ears. Lady Mu glanced at the crowd, shook her head and said with a smile, "Sister Yu, what are you talking about? I've only met Mr. twice. How would I know what he likes?" The beautiful woman seemed to have heard a funny joke. She laughed until her body trembled. "Sister, don't try to trick me. I've heard that you've already accompanied Mr. while naked twice. Otherwise, why would Mr. be so fond of you and gather us at your stronghold? So that was how it was." All of a sudden there was an uproar. They all thought that Lady Mu had done it with Xianxia, so they looked at Lady Mu with much more respect. But Lady Mu's eyes turned cold. She had stripped naked and accompanied Xianxia to take a bath twice. This matter was only known by a few people within her circle. Even outsiders knew about it. Someone must have leaked it. Thinking of Xianxia's decisiveness in killing and the heart-palpitating blue flame, Lady Mu's heart quivered. Who leaked it? This matter must be investigated. "Yu Fengjiao." Someone in the crowd shouted. Yu Yan came over and said coldly with a gloomy face, "How dare you say such baseless words? Aren't you afraid that Mr. Yu will be angry if he finds out?" She had seen Xianxia kill without batting an eye. "Oh, I was wondering who it was. Turned out to be Yu Yan." Yu Fengjiao said with a look of sudden realization, "Yes. This place is controlled by 2 women. I heard that Mr. is a young man. No wonder he likes this place. Plus, the illicit relationship between a human, a demon, and a ghost must have a different feeling. I Yu Fengjiao am really envious." As she spoke, her hands swayed seductively, intentionally or unintentionally passing over her ample breasts and perky buttocks. She twisted her snake-like soft waist and glanced provocatively at Lady Mu's and Yu Yan's breasts with disdain. She looked as if she was the master of 2 men. The group of men looked at each other in shock. They all thought that this woman was too bold. She dared to say such words. Was she not afraid of death? Is this the so-called first beauty of our demon domain, Sister Yu Fengjiao? The pale Yuji came over and looked Yu Fengjiao up and down. Lady Mu's face was as cold as frost. She wanted to lose her temper, but it was not convenient. After all, she had gathered everyone on behalf of Xianxia. As soon as she saw Yuji, she immediately came over to help her up and said, "Madam, why did you come out? You have just crossed the tribulation and are weak. You should have a good rest." Not only Lady Mu but also the other Ghost King and Demon King as well as the arrogant Yu Fengjiao, all respectfully greeted her, Madam. It should be known that Meng Yan was quite senior in the demon domain. He had been conferred the title of Ghost King by the former torture envoy, and his seniority was even higher than Bai Changchun's. The most important thing was that Meng Yan had a power that was different from others. He had a group of hundreds of thousands of loyal soldiers who would follow him through life and death. After cultivating in the demon domain for thousands of years, there were definitely many masters among them. There were countless cultivators at the late stage of the Ghost King, more than anywhere else. This was also the reason why after Bai Changchun killed Meng Yan, he wanted to help Yu Ji, who was only at the middle stage of the Ghost King, ascend the throne. If it were someone else, it would be difficult for any cultivator at the late stage of the Ghost King to control the hundreds of thousands of ghost soldiers. When Meng Yan was alive, they listened to either the general or the madam. Now that the general was dead, they naturally listened to the madam. In the demon domain, the torture envoy did not allow outsiders to make trouble here at will, nor did he allow the people inside to go out at will. However, he usually turned a blind eye to the internal disputes in the demon domain. It didn't matter how many people died and they could fight at will. However, they were allowed to kill each other, but they were not allowed to occupy territory. Even if they won, they had to go back to their respective places. In short, the territory was made of iron, but the people were alive. Anyway, there were many demon kings at the late stage of the tribulation passing in the demon domain. Once they died, they could immediately confer a new one, so it didn't matter if they continued to fight. It could be said that, whether it was a group fight or a one-on-one fight, no one in the entire demon domain was a match for Meng Yan's group. Even though Meng Yan was dead, that terrifying power had a new master, and that was this pale-faced woman. From this, it could be seen how important Yu Ji was. Yu Fengjiao dared to be arrogant in front of Miss Mu, but she had to behave herself in front of Yu Ji. Otherwise, if Yu Ji gave the order, Yu Fengjiao would definitely have no way to escape, and the army could sweep her territory clean in a few days. Yu Ji's eyes slowly swept across the crowd. Although she was smiling, she felt a little sad in her heart. Facing the heroes in the demon domain, the man who had protected her for thousands of years was really gone. She had to bear all the things alone. She was a little tired and really wanted to leave this sad place as soon as possible. As long as she was still in the demon domain, she would always be marked by Ghost General Meng Yan, which could be seen from the way everyone called her Madam. She restrained her emotions and said to Miss Mu with a smile, "I don't know when Mr. Yu will arrive. If he comes and I can't welcome him in time, wouldn't it be a sin? I don't have the mood to rest. Madam can rest in peace. I have sent people to guard the 1,000-mile lake. Once Sir arrives, someone will immediately report to you," Miss Mu said as she supported her. Yu Ji shook her head and looked at Yu Fengjiao. She smiled meaningfully and said, "Sister Yu is indeed worthy of being called the #1 beauty in the demon region. Now that I've seen you today, you do live up to your reputation." Yu Fengjiao hurriedly bowed. "I dare not. Madam's beauty is really peerless. I have admired you for a long time." She glanced at Miss Mu and Yin and sneered, "But I am confident that my beauty is better than some people. If it weren't for the fact that this place is close to the 1,000-mile lake and some people have taken the initiative, Sir would not have chosen this place to gather everyone. It just so happens that some people are so arrogant. Madam, don't you think it's annoying?" Yu Ji was a smart woman and immediately understood the meaning of Yu Fengjiao's words. She smiled and did not say anything. The other men shook their heads. It was true that 3 women were like a drama. This woman was crazy. She did not know where and when to be jealous. Yan, who was on the side, shouted on the spot, "Yu Fengjiao, what do you mean by that?" Yu Fengjiao raised her eyebrows. Just as she was about to mock him, a silhouette flashed by and bowed to Lady Mu. "Lady Mu, Mr. Yu has left the 1,000-miles lake and is flying towards us." Hearing this, the atmosphere immediately became solemn. The women stopped making a fuss and everyone stopped watching. They immediately rushed out of the entrance of the stronghold and lined up to welcome him. Chapter 315. Ah, how lively! From afar, Yu Qianchou saw a large group of people at the entrance of the stronghold. As soon as his sword landed, a group of people knelt on the ground and said in unison, "Greetings, mister." No need to be so courteous. Get up. Yu Qianchou laughed and raised his hand. Looking around, there were people wearing all kinds of clothes and colors. Especially their hair, it was a complete mess. No wonder they were demons and ghosts. The demons and ghosts were also secretly sizing him up. Seeing his smiling face, they all felt that he should not be difficult to get along with. Lady Mu, who had stood up, walked over and raised her hand to welcome him. "Mr. Please come in." Xianxia smiled and nodded at the crowd, then walked in. If it was in the past, he might have been a little timid to see so many people who were similar to the final stage of the gods' tribulation. But now his mentality was very different. Especially after listening to Bai Changchun's amazing speech these 2 days, and seeing this group of demon kings and ghost king, he really felt that they were nothing. The eyes of the demons and ghosts revolved around him and moved with him. Yu Fengjiao, who was among them, had a fiery look in her eyes. She wanted to go over and talk to them, but due to her identity she was more or less afraid and did not dare to act rashly. Seeing Lady Mu and Xianxia smiling at each other, an unconcealable jealousy appeared in her eyes, and she gnashed her teeth in anger. When Yuji saw that Xianxia's gaze swept past her without even stopping for a moment, her face immediately became even paler. She felt miserable in her heart. Xianxia's current status was unreachable. How could he still be that young man who was on the verge of death back then? As expected, he had forgotten about her. When she thought of her dead husband, she felt that it was not worth it. She did not know that Xianxia's eyes were a little dazzled by these heroes of different colors. He was not in the mood to distinguish who was who. Otherwise, the 9th nether cave under her Ghost King's hall would be enough to attract him. Madame Mu, who was leading the way, suddenly realized that Xianxia had stopped after a few steps. She couldn't help but ask, "Mister, is there something wrong?" The group of demon ghosts following him also stopped. Xianxia shook his head, then looked around and said, "I heard from Master yesterday that there's a ghost cultivator here who has broken through to the Ghost King final phase and is undergoing his tribulation. Who is it?" The demonic ghosts naturally knew who the master he was referring to was. They immediately felt deep veneration, and their demeanor became much more respectful. Seemed like they were all afraid of Bai Changchun. Xianxia smiled and waved his hand. "Don't mind me, I was just asking." As he said that, he paused. Yuji walked out from the crowd and bowed. "Mister, it was I who was undergoing my tribulation yesterday." Faster thief. This woman's cultivation was already at the Ghost King final phase. Xianxia raised his eyebrows and suddenly said in a surprised tone, "Sister-in-law, why are you here? How could I trouble sister-in-law to come and welcome me? Dispense with the formalities, dispense with the formalities." As he said that, he reached out to support Yuji. As their skin touched, he thought to himself, "How smooth." The demonic ghosts looked at each other in confusion. They did not know when Yuji had become acquainted with Xianxia. Meanwhile, Yuji's body trembled. This sister-in-law was worth a lot. She bit her lips and said softly, "I don't dare. Sister-in-law, please accept my condolences. This is all my fault. If it wasn't for my insistence, Brother Meng would not have." Xianxia shook his head in regret. He held Yuji's arm tightly and patted it from time to time as if he was caressing it. His tone suddenly turned serious. "Sister-in-law, don't worry. Although Brother Meng is no longer here, I'm still here. Sister-in-law, please take care." His words carried extra weight in the demonic ghost's ears. Xianxia's words clearly meant that he was protecting Yuji. Hence they looked at Yuji with envy. Some of them suddenly realized that before Meng Yan died, he went to the 1,000-mile lake and saw Xianxia on a flying instrument. However, Yuji herself felt that there was something fishy. Xianxia's patting and caressing action immediately made her feel that there was a deeper meaning in his words. Her imagination ran wild. Brother Meng is no longer here, but I'm still here. Xianxia looked at Yuji's evasive eyes with pity. He thought to himself, "I don't mean anything else. Don't think too much." He looked around and asked, "Madame Meng's body is a little weak. Who can give her a hand?" His question was a little redundant. No matter how weak Yuji was, she could still kill a tiger, let alone walk. He was just putting on an act and finding an excuse to let go. However, someone was willing to be attentive and volunteered to help. Yu Fengjiao was afraid that someone would snatch her away. She teleported over and bowed with a flirtatious look. "Yu Fengjiao greets Mr. I'll help, madam." As she said that, she took the initiative and threw a few flirtatious glances at a certain someone. Yuji's heart was pounding when she called him Mr. and Madam. Her imagination ran wild again. This person was too smart. She could always understand things that others couldn't. There was no other way. Yu Qianqiu was quite sensitive to flirting with beautiful women. He accepted all of them without missing a beat. His eyes lit up. He looked around and laughed. I didn't expect there to be so many beautiful women in our demon region. All the demons and ghosts immediately laughed along. Yu Qianqiu suddenly felt refreshed. No wonder people said that a man couldn't be powerless for a day. Even the demons and ghosts knew how to flatter him. This feeling was not bad. He was also interested. He turned around and said, Yu Fengjiao? Is it that beauty of the world, you? Yes. Yu Fengjiao answered in a sweet voice. Her flirtatious eyes were like water almost dripping out. Not bad. You are indeed a beauty. Yu Qianqiu laughed. Yu Fengjiao put on a shy expression and replied in a shameless tone, Thank you for your compliment, mister. This little slut is quite interesting. Yu Qianqiu couldn't help but take a few more glances at her curvaceous body. Then he laughed heartily and waved his hand. He strode into the fort. A group of demon kings and the ghost king followed him. Their imposing manner made a certain someone feel proud of himself. A fancy seat had been set up on the steps outside the hall. Yu Qianqiu sat on the high seat without any reservations. He looked down at the demon kings and the ghost king who had taken their respective seats. A sense of pride welled up in his chest. Lady Mu, who was standing beside him, smiled and said, Mister, the demon kings and the ghost king who are in charge of the various territories have gathered quite a number of spiritual herbs according to your instructions. They have been stored in the storeroom. Yu Qianqiu's eyes lit up. Have you gathered all the spiritual herbs listed on the Jade Archive? Lady Mu smiled bitterly and shook her head. Mister, you may not know this, but out of the thousands of spiritual herbs listed on the Jade Archive, we haven't managed to gather a single stalk of the top-grade 9-scented spiritual herb. As for the few dozen top-grade spiritual herbs, they are too rare. We've only managed to gather a few of them. The rest are more or less complete. You're saying how many top-grade spiritual herbs have you gathered? Go. Quick, bring me to them. Yu Qianqiu couldn't sit still any longer. He stood up abruptly. It should be known that the top-grade spiritual herbs were about the same level as the 7-star blood orchid. As for the highest quality ones, they were even more difficult to find. They were all about the same grade as the Adumber flower. These kinds of highest quality items were all things that could only be found by chance, not sought. He had originally intended to give it a try and let everyone try it out. However, he was already very surprised to be able to gather some top-grade spiritual herbs. Chapter 316. On the steps of the hall, Yu Qianqiu and Lady Mu walked away together. The demonic ghosts below the stage heard them clearly. When they saw that the spiritual herbs could make Yu Qianqiu lose his composure, their expressions turned solemn. Many of them had already taken out their duplicated jade archives and injected their divine senses into them to check on the spiritual herbs that were ranked at the top. All of them silently made up their minds. The storeroom was in a cave at the back of the mountain. Lady Mu led him to a single room. As soon as Yu Qianqiu walked in, his eyes lit up. On the long stone platform, there were strands of spiritual herbs of all shapes and sizes. Each of them had their own positions. He walked along the stone platform step by step, nodding his head with a smile on his face. He finally saw many spiritual herbs that he had never seen before. He used his divine sense to contact Chu Ping'er in Utopia and told her to prepare to receive the spiritual herbs. As he walked past and looked at the spiritual herbs on the stone platform, he swept them in. Mister, these 4 are the top-grade spiritual herbs, Lady Mu said as she pointed to a single short stone platform in the middle. The 4 different spiritual herbs immediately attracted Yu Qianqiu's attention. He rubbed his hands excitedly and took a few steps forward. 7-star blood orchid? The expression on Yu Qianqiu's face froze. He picked up the rather old blood-red orchid, examined it carefully and threw it into his storage pouch. He was all too familiar with the 7-star blood orchid, as he had planted a large number of them in Utopia. Mister, is this called the 7-star blood orchid? What's its use? Lady Mu asked curiously. Nothing much. It's exactly what I need to concoct pills. Yu Qianqiu casually took it with him. When he gave her the Jade Archive back then, he had only marked out the spiritual plants and the like. As for what they were called or what they were used for, he hadn't copied them at all. He naturally had a plan in mind as to why he did this. Since Lady Mu could become the overlord of a region, she was not stupid. Seeing that he was unwilling to talk about it in detail, she did not ask further. Then he picked up another stalk of spirit grass with a heavy expression. It was a Ganoderma with 7 different colors. Rainbow Ganoderma. Xianxia muttered to himself in disappointment. It was recorded in the Jade Archive that if the 7-colored Ganoderma was combined with several other spiritual herbs to refine into a pill and consumed, it would be able to smoothly break through the bottlenecks of any stage of cultivation, from the tribulation passing stage to the early stage of the tribulation passing stage. It was a treasure in the cultivation world for cultivation advancement. If a cultivator's cultivation base was stuck at the peak of the nascent soul late stage, a pill refined from the rainbow Lingji mushroom would almost certainly help him break through to the tribulation transcendence stage. Although the item was good, it reminded Xianxia of his sad past. It was precisely because how Xianxia had unintentionally picked up this item that the Deluo sect had tried to kill him. Xianxia's face darkened at the thought of how the Deluo sect had yet to avenge his master's death. "Mister, what's wrong? Is there something wrong?" Lady Mu asked fearfully. This 7-colored Ganoderma had been picked by none other than one of her subordinates. Now that she saw Xianxia's expression, he was obviously very unhappy. How could she not be afraid? "It's nothing." Xianxia came back to his senses and took a deep breath. Holding the 7-colored Ganoderma in his hand, he smiled bitterly and said, "When I first entered the cultivation world, I became the disciple of a master. It was because of this item that my master lost his life. Now that I think about it, I feel a little sad." As he spoke, he stuffed the Ganoderma into his storage pouch. Lady Mu immediately heaved a sigh of relief. She could finally put her heart at ease. When she looked at Xianxia again, she saw that he was staring at the remaining 2 spiritual herbs with his mouth wide open. His eyes were slowly widening and he had a look of disbelief on his face. He stood rooted to the spot, not moving an inch. The 2 spiritual herbs were about half the height of a person. Their leaves were green like jade and shaped like a baby's palm. The rest of their bodies were as transparent as crystal, and the meridians inside could be seen clearly. They looked like bamboo, but they were actually growing in segments. Every segment was the length of a finger and there was a crystal ball-like segment. The 2 spiritual herbs looked strange, but they were almost identical. The only difference was that one could clearly see the meridians inside, one red and one purple. "What's wrong now?" Lady Mu looked at him suspiciously. The living beings in the demon realm had almost zero ability to distinguish and use spirit herbs. However, it was also because of this that some rare spirit herbs were preserved. She didn't understand, so naturally she found it strange. Xianxia took out the Jade Archive containing the pill formula. After imbuing it with his divine sense, he put it away and suddenly grabbed the 2 stalks of spirit herbs in each of his hands. He sniffed the one on the right, then the one on the left. He nodded slightly and muttered, "The fragrance doesn't disperse, one strong and one weak. There's no mistaking it, there's no mistaking it. It's actually the seal of truth and falsehood. Damn it, I'm rich." Huh. The true and false sealess break was recorded in the pill recipe Jade Archive. This item was actually a pair of spirit herbs that grew together with a male and a female. The male herb was known as the false sealess break, while the female herb was known as the true sealess break. Wherever a male herb grew, the female herb would be found, and vice versa. Combined with a few other spirit herbs, it could be refined into a true and false limit-breaking pill. The male herb would produce a false limit-breaking pill, and the female herb would produce a true limit-breaking pill. But when the male and female herbs were combined, there was no distinction between the real and the fake. The spirit pill was called the limit-breaking pill. Since it was called the limit-breaking pill, it naturally had its miraculous effects. Normally, when a cultivator consumed a spirit pill, as long as they had enough spirit stones, the spiritual energy they absorbed within 2 hours of the pill's medicinal effects dissipating could be quickly refined into true origin with the help of the miraculous medicinal effects of the limit-breaking pill. Think about it, if there were enough limit-breaking pills and spirit stones, wouldn't it be possible to increase one's cultivation without any restrictions? Of course, although the limit-breaking pill was miraculous, it wasn't that exaggerated. If it really was that exaggerated, then Yu Qianzhou could turn his subordinates into gods. Although spirit pills were called limit-breaking pills, the great Tao of the heavens and earth still had a strong binding force. First of all, Yu Qianzhou could solve the problem of having a large amount of spirit stones and limit-breaking pills. As for the bottlenecks in cultivation, such as breaking through from the foundational stage to the core formation stage, he could also solve them. Especially now that he had the rainbow Lingji, which could help people break through bottlenecks in cultivation, in his hands. However, once one's cultivation reached the tribulation transcendence stage, where one would have to endure the tribulation transcendence stage, this kind of spirit pill would lose its effect. This kind of mysterious thing between heaven and earth was difficult to explain. In other words, it didn't matter if it was the limit-breaking pill, the real limit-breaking pill, or the fake limit-breaking pill, all of them could help people increase their cultivation quickly. However, when one reached the tribulation passing stage, they would be useless. However, since there were 3 types of limit-breaking pills, each of them had their own advantages. The real limit-breaking pill could help people increase their cultivation level. However, after reaching the tribulation passing stage, one could only reach the end of the tribulation passing stage. It would be difficult to progress any further. This was because this type of Dan had side effects. The side effects of taking too many Dan. Just like what Bai Changchun said, when things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. The limit-breaking pill was, in fact, an insurmountable restriction was set at the end. The fake limit-breaking pill could also help people increase their cultivation level to the tribulation passing stage, but it was at the cost of one's life. Once one reached the tribulation passing stage, whoever took it would die. There was also an insurmountable restriction. Bai Changchun often said that if the heavens had feelings, he was indeed an expert who cultivated the Tao. His words had revealed the secrets of the heavens. There was no difference between the real and the fake limit-breaking pill, but the restrictions of the tribulation passing stage were still there. Although there were no restrictions that made people feel pain, the heavens would not let them be so carefree. As the saying went, there was always a loss. The price of taking a spiritual pill was that one would not be able to move for a month and their entire body would be stiff. Only after the side effects were gone would their bodies be able to move freely. By the time they could move, it would already be a month later. If it was for the sake of increasing their cultivation level, why wouldn't they be afraid? They could come every month to stiffen their bodies. Yu Qianzhou was often worried about the cultivation levels of his subordinates in Utopia. When he brought them out to fight, they would have to scheme and scheme. Although there were many of them, they could only do some sneaky things. This was too displeasing, but there was nothing they could do. If they met someone powerful, they would not be able to win. Just as he was dozing off, someone sent him a pillow. How could he not be happy? If the troops under him were all experts at the tribulation passing stage and were well trained, what would it mean to bring them out to fight? Just thinking about it made him extremely excited. Chapter 317. In Utopia, Bai Suzhen was focused on breaking the restrictions on the Green Destiny Sword. She had entrusted the daily management of Ethereal Palace to Chu Ping'er. Chu Ping'er, who had completely resolved the knot in her heart, shouldered the heavy responsibility and stopped overthinking. Now that she had something to do, coupled with the nourishment of love and her husband, she, who was already a beauty, shone with an astonishing charm. At this moment she was acting like a smart and capable woman as she instructed everyone to carefully handle the spiritual herbs that Yu Qianzhou had brought over. Her man was working hard outside, so she had to look after the house for him. He might have risked his life to obtain these spiritual herbs. As the beautiful Chu Ping'er was letting her imagination run wild, Yu Qianzhou's voice rang in her ears again. "Ping'er, I have 2 more spiritual herbs here. You must look after them carefully and try to breed them as soon as possible." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Ping'er realized that there were 2 more strange-looking spiritual herbs in front of her. She could see them but not see anyone. She instinctively looked around. Yu Qianzhou's teasing voice rang out again. "Stop looking around. My Ping'er is getting prettier and prettier. Be good and wait. It won't be long before your hubby comes back to serve you." As his voice faded away, Chu Ping'er's cheeks flushed red. She secretly snorted. She knew very well what this bad man meant by "serve me." After a while he carefully put away the 2 spirit herbs that Yu Qianzhou had given him. After flirting with Chu Ping'er behind his back, Yu Qianzhou was in a good mood. He nodded at Miss Mu and said, "You did well this time." "You flatter me, mister." Miss Mu smiled knowingly. Yu Qianzhou waved his hand and said, "Come, let's go take a look." The two of them returned to the steps of the hall. The whispering crowd immediately quietened down. Yu Qianzhou returned to his high seat in the middle of the room and scrutinized the demonic ghosts below him. Seeing that many of them were still holding on to jade archives, he suddenly realized something. Turning his head, he shouted, "Lady Mu, which demon king and ghost king sent those 4 top-notch spiritual herbs?" All of a sudden there was silence below and everyone pricked up their ears. Lady Mu smiled and looked at the crowd below. Suddenly 3 people's eyes lit up. They should be the ones who had picked the top-grade spiritual herbs. However, Yu Qianzhou waved his hand again and said, "Forget it, Miss Mu, register the names of those 4 people. In the future, if anyone can find top-notch or supreme-grade spiritual herbs, write them down. I will thank them all at that time." "Yes, sir." After Lady Mu finished speaking, she smiled apologetically at the 3 people below her. Suddenly, she noticed that many of them were signaling her with their eyes. She paused, then bowed slightly and whispered into Yu Qianzhou's ear, "Mister, there are quite a few people who have brought you greeting gifts this time. Do you want them to bring them up now?" Yu Qianzhou waved his hand, leaned on his chair and crossed his legs. He said, "I appreciate everyone's kind intentions, but there's no need to trouble everyone. Why don't you send someone to collect them for me? Just remember to list the corresponding names on the list. I will understand when I see them." The people who had prepared greeting gifts were disappointed. There were many people here and they had all planned to make themselves familiar with Yu Qianzhou. Who knew that this would be the result? How could they know what Yu Qianzhou was thinking? First of all, Yu Qianzhou thought that these people didn't even have enough spirit stones for cultivation. He reckoned that they wouldn't be able to bring out anything good. Second, he felt that it would be too troublesome to wait for them to bring out their gifts one by one. There were so many people here. So he dismissed them with a single sentence. Lady Mu glanced at the people below and bowed. "I understand, sir. I will send someone to collect the gifts. There's one more thing." Yu Qianzhou waved his hand, asking her to wait. He stood up and cupped his hands at the crowd. "I came here on the orders of my master. There's a small job on Obedient Island that needs help. My master asked me to choose a suitable candidate to go to Obedient Island. I wonder if anyone is willing to go with me?" As soon as he said this, the people below were so quiet that they could hear a pin drop. After they reacted, the demonic ghosts' breathing quickened, and their eyes became fiery. Who wouldn't want to stay by Changchun's side? Wasn't Heli also a demonic cultivator? Didn't he also become Bai Changchun's disciple? The way he ran amok in demonic ghost domain was enviable. Although the ending wasn't good, he asked for it. Even if he couldn't be accepted as Bai Changchun's disciple, he would still be someone by his side. At that time, no one in demonic ghost domain would dare to not give him face. In demonic ghost domain, Bai Changchun was a godlike existence to everyone. To be able to stay by his side, not to mention the benefits, just the honor, was unimaginable to outsiders. Now that Yu Qianzhou suddenly announced this news, all of them couldn't sit still. Since he was going to choose, it meant that everyone had a chance. This wasn't a dream, right? Lady Mu's hands grabbed the corners of her clothes uneasily. Her knuckles turned white as she let her imagination run wild. Yu Ji, who was below the stage, couldn't stop her heart. She bit her lips and stared at Yu Qianzhou. Yu Fengjiao, on the other hand, stuck out her full chest, wishing that she could attract Yu Qianzhou's gaze. These were the people who thought that they had a higher chance. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Yu Qianzhou raised a hand and said with a frown, "How about this? Those who are willing to go, raise your hand." Swish. Not a single one of them held their hands up. Yu Qianzhou was stunned. He looked at Yu Ji, who had her hand raised high. This woman also wanted to join in the fun? He looked up at the sky and gestured for everyone to put down their hands. He cleared his throat and said, "Everyone, I forgot to tell you clearly. The sky above Shuntian Island is not covered by dark clouds all year round. During the day the sun shines brightly. I'm afraid that ghost cultivators can't stay on the island. So this time, we will only choose one person from the demonic ghost cultivators. Of course, if anyone has the cultivation of ghost sage stage and can walk in broad daylight, you can also give it a try." Instantly the 300 Ghost King became listless. Yuji's body trembled and her face became paler. Yu Fengjiao glanced at Yuji and her eyes lit up. Her charming eyes were full of confidence. In her eyes she only saw Yuji, who Yu Qianzhou called sister-in-law, as her competitor. Now that Yuji and the 300 ghost cultivators had been eliminated, she believed that no one could be her opponent, including Lady Mu. Ever since she heard that Yu Qianzhou and Lady Mu were naked together, she thought that her chance had come. She was very confident in her beauty. Yu Qianzhou looked around and said with a smile, "Don't think that coming to Shantian Island is a good job. Once you're on the island, you can't leave without my master's permission. Don't blame me if you can't bear the loneliness." Loneliness? Everyone here had cultivated for over 1,000 years. Who would be afraid of loneliness? No one listened to his words. They were all fantasizing about the glory of being by Changchun's side. Yu Qianzhou knew the answer from their fanatical eyes. He shook his head and said, "It seems that everyone wants to go, but I can only bring one person with me. How about this? I'll go take a bath first. You guys discuss it. It's best if everyone can recommend one person." As he said this, he turned around and said to Miss Mu, "Get someone to collect the gift. It's been a long time since I've enjoyed your massage skills. Accompany me to take a bath." He did not hide his words from the rest of the demons and ghosts, so they heard him clearly. Yu Fengjiao's expression changed. Although Lady Mu didn't think that it was a big deal, she still blushed when she heard it in front of so many people. She bowed and said, "Yes." Then she quickly arranged for someone to help Yu Qianzhou collect the greeting gifts. Just as the two of them were about to enter the hall, someone suddenly called out, "Mister, please wait." Yu Qianzhou looked back and saw the seductive Yu Fengjiao walking out from the crowd. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "What's the matter?" The woman seemed to have thrown caution to the wind. She bowed seductively and said, "Mister, you must be tired. This little demon's massage technique is not bad. I'm willing to go with you to relieve your fatigue. I hope Mister will allow it." As soon as she said this, Lady Mu frowned. The people below looked at each other. They didn't expect Yu Fengjiao to do this. There were many female demons among the demons, but none of them were as bold as her. Yu Qianzhou glanced at Lady Mu and said with a smile, "Lady Mu's company is enough. I don't dare to trouble the demon monarch." Just as he was about to turn around, he heard Yu Fengjiao call out, "Mister, please wait." Am I not clear enough? Yu Qianzhou looked back and said in a cold tone. Yu Fengjiao was so scared that her heart skipped a beat. However, she still gritted her teeth and forced a smile on her face. She bowed and said, "I have a special treasure to give to Mister as a greeting gift. I hope Mister will accept it." Special treasure? Yu Qianzhou's expression softened. He turned around and said, "What kind of special treasure does the demon monarch have? Why don't you show it to me?" Once he heard that there was a good treasure for him, he immediately became very easy to talk to. The demon ghosts were also curious. They didn't know what kind of special treasure Yu Fengjiao had. Yu Fengjiao looked at everyone and said awkwardly, "Mister, it's really not convenient to show this greeting gift in front of everyone. Can you?" Yu Qianzhou's eyes brightened. Could it be that he really came across a good treasure on this trip? It seemed like he had to take a closer look at the demon ghost's gift list. He didn't want to miss out on anything good. He smiled and said, "If that's the case, the demon monarch can come with me. I want to see what kind of treasure it is and see the demon monarch's massage technique." He laughed and turned around. "Thank you, mister." Yu Fengjiao bowed in high spirits and quickly walked up the stairs. Together with the silent Lady Mu, her slender waist and hips swayed in a graceful manner. Chapter 318. The demonic ghosts below the stage were speechless. After a long time, someone cursed, "Offering a treasure? I think it's offering her body. Yu Fengjiao, this bitch is shameless. I'm sure she's up to no good. Maybe the opportunity to go to Shantian Island will really be taken by her." Someone immediately sneered, "Since you know that she might go to Shantian Island, how dare you scold her? Aren't you afraid that she will make things difficult for you?" The person who scolded her earlier was speechless. Thinking about it, it was true. Regardless of whether she was shameless or not, if she really went to Shantian Island, it would be very easy for her to deal with him. Yuji turned a deaf ear to these words. Her heart was filled with desolation. She could only blame herself for being a ghost. Otherwise she might have a chance. Meanwhile, a man and two women entered the hot spring cave at the back of the mountain. Xianxia's eyes lit up. He rubbed his hands impatiently and said, "There's no one else here. Demon Monarch, if you have any greeting gifts, why don't you take them out?" Lady Mu also stared at Yu Fengjiao curiously. She didn't know what special treasures she had brought as a greeting gift. But what she saw next made Lady Mu completely stunned. Yu Fengjiao delicately lifted her hands and gently took off her clothes. In the blink of an eye, her curvaceous snow-white body was revealed. Yu Fengjiao shyly stood there without saying a word, allowing Yu Qianqiu to admire her. Yu Qianqiu admitted that her figure was very attractive. But to him the so-called special treasure was even more alluring. He looked carefully at the naked body in front of him, but he didn't seem to see what he wanted. He asked with a face full of doubt, "Demon Monarch, what do you mean? Where's the treasure you mentioned? Why don't I see it?" Hearing this, Lady Mu awkwardly turned her head away and held back her laughter. As a woman, she naturally understood Yu Fengjiao's intentions. But Mr. Yu still didn't understand and was still looking for the treasure. Yu Fengjiao was stunned. She twisted her soft waist and forced a smile. "This little demon will give myself to Mr. as a greeting gift. I wonder if Mr. is satisfied? What do I want you for? Where's the treasure you were talking about?" Yu Qianqiu stretched out his hand and asked for the treasure. He really wasn't faking it. He really hadn't figured it out yet because he felt that with his current status, no one in the demon region would dare to play tricks on him. Yu Fengjiao was a little dumbfounded as she stood there naked. Her lips moved but no words came out. In the end, Lady Mu couldn't hold back her laughter. She looked at Yu Qianqiu with admiration and said, Sister, you means that she herself is that special treasure, and she is offering herself to you as a greeting gift." As soon as Yu Qianqiu heard it, he understood that there was really someone who dared to fool him. His face immediately darkened, and he glanced at the seductive body in front of him expressionlessly. Through the demon-revealing mirror on his chest, he saw that Yu Fengjiao's original form was actually a big black snake with a ferocious face. Its appearance was quite frightening, and it was impossible to associate it with the naked body in front of him. He couldn't help but say coldly, "So you yourself are that special treasure. Seems that I really misjudged you." After saying that, he turned around and took off his clothes, soaked in the hot spring pool, and closed his eyes to enjoy the comfortable massage from Lady Mu, who entered the water next. Lady Mu skillfully massaged Yu Qianqiu's body with her 10 fingers, and occasionally looked back at Yu Fengjiao, who was standing restlessly. The two women's eyes met and immediately sparks flew. Yu Fengjiao didn't hesitate to think that Lady Mu's gaze was provocative. On the other hand, Lady Mu's body was definitely not as good as hers, so her confidence rose again. She gritted her teeth and actually entered the hot spring. She nervously touched her 10 fingers on Yu Qianqiu's body and stiffly moved. "If you want to massage, then do it seriously. Don't spoil my fun." Yu Qianqiu opened his eyes, then closed them again and said. Yu Fengjiao thought that he didn't dislike it, so her coquettishness came out again. She often accidentally rubbed the most successful parts of her body, and in the end, the massage simply became friction, squeezing Lady Mu's working position. Lady Mu was calm and simply moved aside. She went ashore, put on her clothes and watched from the side. Yu Qianqiu, on the other hand, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. To be honest, every time he came to Lady Mu's place, he didn't have any improper thoughts. He came purely for Lady Mu's massage skills. Her skills were really good. The current scene reminded him of the massage scenes in his previous life. Massages were also divided into formal and informal ones. The informal ones inevitably had a bit of erotic allure. That kind of technique wasn't very good, and it was purely a side business of selling meat. For example, the formal massage for the blind was indeed enjoyable. After all, he relied on his skills to make a living and he often went there. Now the difference between Yu Fengjiao and Lady Mu's massage was the difference between formal and informal. If this continued, he would definitely be burned with lust. Yu Qianqiu pushed Yu Fengjiao away and got up to let Lady Mu help him put on his clothes. In the past he would enjoy a comfortable nap, but today he met a butcher, so how could he sleep? Yu Fengjiao, who was pushed away, didn't mind. She sensed that there was a slight change in Yu Qianqiu's body. She thought that her charm was still better than Lady Mu's, and that Yu Qianzhou was running away. Thus she put on her clothes with some pride and followed behind Yu Qianzhou, who was walking out. She asked, "Is Mr. satisfied with this little demon's technique?" Yu Qianzhou didn't express any opinion and didn't say much. "If there's a chance, this little demon is willing to come to Obedient Island and serve Mr. for a long time," Yu Fengjiao said vaguely, expressing her feelings. "Do the same thing in Obedient Island? Damn it. You're not afraid of death, but I am," Yu Qianzhou said indifferently. "I will consider it seriously." "Thank you, Mr." Yu Fengjiao's true form was that of a snake. She followed Lady Mu's words and climbed up. As she spoke, she looked at Lady Mu, who was also a demon king, with some pride. Hearing this, Lady Mu's expression changed. She was also in the big environment of the demon ghost region, and couldn't help but desire to go to Obedient Island. However, she couldn't do it as openly as Yu Fengjiao. The outside was already in a mess. Everyone wanted to go to Obedient Island. Since Yu Qianzhou had asked everyone to recommend one person, they all recommended him. It was impossible for them to pee in the same pot. Thus the conflict arose and they almost started fighting. When the three of them stood on the steps again, the demon kings quieted down, but none of them liked each other. Yu Fengjiao stood on the steps and didn't come down. She looked down confidently and looked at the demon kings with disdain. Yu Qianzhou glanced at her and didn't say anything. "If you want to fight, wait until I'm gone," Yu Qianzhou coldly said. He looked around at the quiet crowd and said, "I have always been a fair person. Have the people I asked you to recommend come out? If you have, come forward." The demon kings below looked at each other. After waiting for a long time, no one stepped forward. Yu Qianzhou was expressionless, but he sneered in his heart. He knew this would be the case. If not for the fact that he was a little embarrassed to accept their gifts, he wouldn't have talked about democracy with them. After a while he said, "Since you haven't recommended anyone, I'll pick one randomly. You won't have any objections, right?" "No, we'll listen to Mr." Everyone agreed. In fact, even if they had objections, no one dared to say it. After all, not everyone was as arrogant and daring as Yu Fengjiao. "In that case, I'll bring Lady Mu back to Obedient Island. What do you think?" Yu Qianzhou asked. All the demon ghosts looked at Lady Mu enviously. Some of them thought that it was as they expected. Lady Mu was at a loss. She bowed in surprise and said, "Thank you, Mr." This sentence was said by Yu Fengjiao not long ago. In the blink of an eye, it had changed hands. Yu Fengjiao finally regained her senses. She lost her composure and said anxiously, "Mister, didn't you say it was me? Didn't you promise me just now?" Yu Qianzhou turned around and asked curiously, "When did I promise you?" "I only said I'll consider it." "Does that count as a promise?" "Mister, please consider it again. As long as Mister is willing to bring me to Obedient Island, I'll agree to anything." Yu Fengjiao was almost begging. It was difficult for an arrogant person to accept such an outcome, especially a woman who was more vain. Her words and actions would easily go to extremes. "You'll really agree to anything?" Yu Qianzhou asked in surprise. Yu Fengjiao's hope was reignited. She nodded repeatedly. All the demon ghosts below looked like they were watching a show. A satisfied smile appeared on Yu Qianzhou's face. He reached out his hand and gently caressed Yu Fengjiao's pretty face. The latter pretended to be shy. She wanted to refuse, but at the same time she also wanted to welcome him. Under everyone's gaze, his hand slid down from her face to her fair neck. Then it slid down again and gently pulled open her collar, which was already slightly open. Her two soft breasts were even more exposed. Yu Qianzhou asked with a smile, "Yu Fengjiao, how dare you lie to me? You think you're a special treasure? You even dare to use it as a greeting gift? What right do you have to make me change my words? Are you tired of living?" Yu Fengjiao, who had been acting as if she was ready to let him do whatever he wanted, suddenly felt something was wrong. His smiling words made her feel a little cold. She stammered, "Mister, I misunderstood. Little demon, shuh." Yu Qianzhou put up a finger in front of his mouth to shush her. His other hand caressed her neck. He smiled gently and said, "Didn't you say that you'll agree to anything I ask of you? Then I'll let you die." His light laughter made all the demon ghosts below feel a chill down their spines. Fear instantly climbed onto Yu Fengjiao's face. That wandering hand grabbed her neck, but she didn't dare to resist. She begged, "Little demon won't dare, Mister, please spare." Her red lips didn't finish her words, but she spat out a mouthful of cyan flame. Her entire body fiercely swelled up, then instantly shrank down. A cyan flame cut through her deformed body and spread out in all directions. In the blink of an eye, that beautiful woman turned into ashes. Along with the fluctuation of the flame, there was nothing left. Chapter 319. After burning Yu Fengjiao to death, the green flame spread and attached itself to Yu Qianqiu's body, wrapping him up completely. Yu Qianqiu stood in the middle of the breathtaking green flame, looking extremely creepy. He still had a smile on his face as he casually glanced at the audience. All the ghosts were shocked. They didn't expect Yu Fengjiao, the Demon King, to be killed just like that. She had been so flirtatious just a moment ago, but she had turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. They didn't understand what the green flame was. It was obviously not warm at all, but it was so domineering. Meanwhile, Yu Qianqiu was smiling calmly in it. This scene was unforgettable. This person was capricious and killed people with a smile. Compared to Bai Chongqun, he was even more difficult to please. All the ghosts came to a conclusion in their hearts. When they looked at Yu Qianqiu again, they all kept quiet out of fear. However, they couldn't help but feel sad for the death of a rabbit. This was the effect Yu Qianqiu wanted. Killing Yu Fengjiao was to establish his authority in front of the Demon Kings and the Ghost King. He wanted to tell everyone that he wasn't someone to be trifled with. Otherwise, if everyone learned from Yu Fengjiao, it would be a mess. And he, who was very likely to be the next torture commissioner, would have no authority to speak of. How could he deter the vast demon ghost region? He had to maintain the deterrence of the torture commissioner in the demon ghost region. The swollen and burning demonic green flame was put back into his body. Yu Qianqiu said expressionlessly, "Don't panic, everyone. I'm not someone who kills innocent people. Yu Fengjiao had evil intentions and deceived me first, so I killed her. When I return, I will report to my master and appoint another demon king." In fact, he also knew that if he really fought with Yu Fengjiao, he wouldn't be able to do much with his cultivation. At the very least, he wouldn't be able to kill her so easily. How could a demon king at the end of the tribulation passing stage be so easy to deal with? The key was that Yu Fengjiao didn't dare to resist Bai Chongqun's despotic power. She also didn't know that he had such a domineering green flame that could instantly destroy her demon body that she had cultivated for 1,000 years. If she knew that she would die, she might have dared to fight to the death. Sir is wise. The demonic ghosts all bowed in unison. Now that things had come to this, no one would cause trouble for the dead Yu Fengjiao. At the same time, he gained a new understanding of Yu Qianqiu. At least in the past, Healy would not have dared to ask Bai Chongqun to appoint another demon king. Healy also did not have the ability to easily kill a demon king at the end of the tribulation stage. Originally, I wanted everyone to recommend a person to follow me to Obedient Island, but none of you made a decision. Thus, I can only make the decision on your behalf. A harmless smile appeared on Yu Qianqiu's face again. He looked around the stage and said, "Moon Yangzi is diligent in her work. I am very relieved. I am sure she will not delay my Shifu's important matter. Does anyone have any different opinions? If you do, why don't you tell me? I'll definitely consider it carefully." Yu Fengjiao, who had any objections, was killed by you. How dare we still have any objections? Isn't the lesson from the past enough? These were the thoughts in everyone's hearts, so they naturally didn't dare to say it out loud. Instead, they put on a look of sincere admiration and bowed in unison. "Mr. is wise, we have no objections." "That's good." Yu Qianqiu laughed and turned to Moon Yangzi. "Moon Yangzi, hand over the affairs of the stronghold as soon as possible. The Demon King's Shifu will naturally have a new appointment. From now on, Obedient Island will be your home." "Thank you, Mr. Moon Yangzi is very grateful." Under the envious gazes of the crowd, Moon Yangzi, who was pleasantly surprised, knelt down and bowed. Yu Qianqiu nodded and calmly accepted her bow, and then he turned around and said in a clear voice, "I can be considered to have met all of you today. However, it isn't convenient for me to stay here for a long time, so please disperse and return to your respective territories. We'll naturally have the chance to meet again in the future." What he meant was for everyone to disperse, but most of them didn't even say a word to him. They were a little unwilling, but they didn't dare to object, so they bowed again and said, "Take care, mister. We will take our leave now." A group of demons and ghosts walked out of the stronghold one after another. Yuji took a deep look at the stage and didn't say what she wanted to say in the end. She sighed inwardly. When Yu Qianqiu first came to the demon ghost region, his life and death were all in her hands. But now he was below one and above tens of thousands of people. He held the power of life and death in the demon ghost region. So what if he was the overlord of a territory, the demon king and the ghost king? Yu Fengjiao was also a character in the demon ghost region. He could kill her if he wanted to. Now who dared to disrespect him? She only hoped that he would remember the oath he made in the past. Outside the stronghold, streams of light of various colors flew across the sky. Yuji walked a little lonely at the back, which was particularly conspicuous. Yu Qianqiu's eyes fell on her leisurely walking figure. He paused for a moment and a smile appeared on his face. He shouted, "Sister-in-law Yuji, please wait." Yuji's body trembled and she slowly turned around. Yu Qianqiu walked over with a smile, cupped his fists and said, "I'll see you off, sister-in-law." "I don't dare to trouble you to see me off," Yuji bowed and said. "Sister-in-law, you're too polite." Yu Qianqiu raised his hand and said, "Please." Yuji couldn't refuse again. She nodded with a wry smile and followed him. When the two of them came out of the stronghold, the other demon kings and the ghost king had all left. Yuji bowed and said, "Mister, please wait." Yuji bids farewell. Yu Qianqiu looked at the charming beauty in front of him, and couldn't help but think of the first time he saw her. In the camp of Meng Yan's army, she was sitting on a high platform with a pipa in her arms, showing off her elegance. What a scene it was! Now she had to yield to him. As the past flashed in his mind, he said with a smile, "Sister-in-law, do you still remember the past? I, Yu Qianqiu, have never forgotten what I promised you." Yuji's body trembled and her eyes immediately lit up. Surprise gradually appeared on her face. She bit her lips and nodded, saying, "Thank you for your concern, mister." "Sister-in-law, don't be surprised. Wait patiently. When I'm almost done with the things I have on hand, I will personally go to the Evil Wind Valley to visit you. It won't be too late to talk then." Yu Qianqiu said with a smile. "You will go to the Evil Wind Valley? That couldn't be any better." Yuji's face immediately returned to her usual charming smile. She bowed and said, "Yuji will be waiting for Mister's arrival at any time." She only thought that Yu Qianqiu was concerned about her matters and was extremely happy. But she didn't know that Yu Qianqiu had always been thinking about the 9 Netherworlds cave in the Evil Wind Valley. "Sister-in-law, take care." Yu Qianqiu cupped his fists and said with a smile. Yuji suddenly became energetic. She smiled and nodded. Just when she was about to leave, she suddenly raised her hand and patted her forehead, saying, "I almost forgot to tell Mister something. A few days ago, a person trespassed into my territory and was caught. After interrogation, I found out that this person came from Fuxian Island and his name was Yen Tua. He said that he was looking for his son, Yen Shu. Originally, he wanted to execute him, but who knew that he mentioned Mister's name, saying that Mister told him that his son was in the Evil Wind Valley." Yuji saw that he mentioned Mister's name and she thought that there must be a reason, so she temporarily detained him. "I wonder if Mister knows this person?" "No, of course he knew him." Yu Qianqiu was stunned and his expression became a little strange. After he killed his son Yen Shu, he was pestered by him for questioning. In order to escape, he casually told a lie, saying that Yen Shu didn't die and was imprisoned in the Evil Wind Valley of the Demon Ghost Domain as a slave. Unexpectedly, after so many years, this old man was eager to save his son, and actually dared to trespass into the Demon Ghost Domain alone. He really wasn't afraid of death. Hehe. I know this person, he is an old friend. Thinking about it, Yu Qianqiu couldn't help but laugh. He said with a deep meaning, "Sister-in-law, help me look after this person. Just don't kill him. When I have time, I will visit him. Just don't kill him." With Yuji's brain, she naturally understood that there was something between these two people. She smiled sweetly and said, "Yuji understands. Mister, please don't see me out." Yuji will take her leave. "I won't be sending you off." Yu Qianqiu cupped his fists. He watched as Yuji turned her waist, flung her long sleeves and turned into a gray shadow as she flew away. After Yuji left, Lady Mu came to welcome him with a storage pouch and a jade archive. She smiled and said, "Mister, the storage pouch contains the gifts for the meeting between the King of Yao and the Ghost King. The jade archive contains the corresponding list." After Yu Qianzhou took it, he casually threw it into the storage pouch and asked, "How's your matter going? Can you come with me now?" Hearing this, Lady Mu frowned slightly. She said hesitantly, "To be honest, mister, I've already taken care of it. However, there is one thing that I need mister to decide on. My main body is in the fort. If I leave for too long it will be troublesome. I need to return every once in a while. I'm afraid that would upset the torturer. Is it possible to transplant my main body to Obedient Island as well? Since it's possible to transplant it, just bring it to Obedient Island. I'll make the decision on this matter. I'll report this to Master when I get back. I believe Master won't say anything." Just like that, Yu Qianzhou decided on the matter. Since Bai Changchun had given him the authority, he wouldn't stand on ceremony. He didn't want Bai Changchun to say that Healy was treating him like an outsider. "Thank you, mister." Lady Mu returned to the fort in a flash. She was probably going to transplant her main body. Chapter 320. At the entrance of the village, Yu Qianzhou broke a branch and found a rock to sit on while waiting for Miss Mu. He was drawing circles on the ground out of boredom, but he was thinking about going to the purple bamboo forest in the South Sea. While he was distracted, congratulatory voices came from inside the village. He threw away the broken stick and stood up. It turned out to be Miss Mu's subordinates congratulating her. Yu Qianzhou shook his head and smiled. "It's not like I'm going there to enjoy my life. What's there to congratulate me for not being a demon king who dominates an area but going to farm?" The long sword on his back popped out with a clang. Yu Qianzhou stepped on the flying sword and flew into the sky, heading in the direction of the 1,000-mile lake. Inside the village, Miss Mu looked up and hurriedly waved goodbye to her subordinates. Her pink dress fluttered in the air and flew around the village. She looked like she was still in love. The last pink figure quickly chased after the distant flowing light. The group of people below looked up and saw her off. "I've kept you waiting. Please forgive me," Miss Mu apologized. With her cultivation, she caught up with Yu Qianzhou in a short while. Yu Qianzhou looked back at Miss Mu, who was flying in the air. Her pink dress fluttered in the wind, making her look like a fairy flying in the sky. It was very pleasing to the eye. He looked at her a few more times and said, "The Great Way is heartless, but people have feelings. You are a demon and have gone through many hardships to transform into a human. If you don't have any human feelings, why did you transform into a human? It's a good thing that you know how to say goodbye. Otherwise, what's the difference between you and the plants, birds and beasts below? It doesn't matter if I wait a little longer." After saying that, he was stunned. Had he been with Bai Changchun for too long? Why did he start talking about principles? Damn. So mushy. Madame Mu was slightly taken aback when she heard this. She looked at the lush greenery below, and her expression was full of thought. After a long while, she replied thoughtfully, "Thank you for your teachings, mister. I'm not qualified to teach you. I was just saying." Yu Qianzhou laughed at himself. Lady Mu smiled. She kept flying half a body behind him. It wasn't that she wasn't as fast as him, but she didn't dare to overtake him out of respect. Not long after, bright sunlight shone through the gap in the dark clouds in front of them, symmetrically reflecting the sparkling lake below. In the blink of an eye, the two of them flew out of the dark space and bathed in the sunlight. The surface of the lake faintly reflected their shadows as they flew past. Miss Mu raised her hand to shield her eyes. The sudden appearance of sunlight made it a little difficult for her to adapt. When she withdrew her hand, she was already looking around with a face full of joy. The dim world behind her had gradually left her. The sky was azure, the clouds were white, the sunlight was golden, and the wind had the smell of sunlight and water. It was refreshing. From time to time, fish would swim out of the lake. Miss Mu's expression was full of infatuation. Her pair of beautiful eyes seemed a little inadequate. It was as if she wanted to take in everything around her into her eyes, afraid that it would be a dream and that when she woke up she would be in that dark world again. Tears, which had not been seen for 1,000 years, gradually filled her eyes. She accidentally failed to hold them back, and 2 sparkling petals flew along her cheeks and were carried away by the wind. Not long after the 2 of them flew away, 2 subtle ding-dong sounds rang out on the surface of the lake. Immediately, a few fish came and kissed the surface of the water, causing layers of ripples. He didn't know if these fishes could taste something called bitterness. Finally, Miss Mu couldn't control her tears anymore. Something called happiness desperately pushed the salty tears out of her eyes. No matter how high her cultivation was, she couldn't control them and they dripped away with the wind. Xianxia suddenly felt something and looked back. He was stunned. Before this girl came, she was a demon king who dominated a region. Why was she crying? And it was that kind of silent cry. It wasn't a sin for a man to cry, but it was even more so for a woman to cry. Xianxia shook his head slightly. He finally understood why these demons and ghosts wanted to come to Obedient Island. At least Miss Mu's silent crying was one of the reasons. He didn't say anything but consciously slowed down a little so that this silly woman could squander her tears a little more. It wasn't that he was kind and sympathetic to her, but he was afraid that she would see the old guy with tears in her eyes. At that time, the old guy would definitely think that he bullied her and did that to her. This was the explanation that Xianxia had for his actions. However, Miss Mu's tears seemed to be endless. After a long time they were still flowing. Sigh. Xianxia sighed and turned back, saying resentfully, "Miss Mu, you accompanied me to bathe and massaged me willingly, didn't you? I didn't bully you, did I?" Miss Mu came back to her senses and asked in surprise, "Why do you ask? Then why are you crying?" Xianxia didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "We're about to reach Obedient Island. Are you going to see my master with tears in your eyes? If my master sees you like this, he will definitely think that I did something shameful to you." I forgot myself. Miss Mu hurriedly wiped away her tears, but she couldn't cry anymore. At the thought of seeing Bai Chongqun, who had shaken the entire demon domain, she immediately felt a little uneasy. As time passed, she was so nervous that even breathing became a little difficult. Unknowingly, the distance between them and Xianxia had increased by one body's length. But what would come, and it was useless to be afraid. An island in the lake in the distance had already appeared in their sight. The two of them sped over and instantly arrived in the sky above Obedient Island. Miss Mu followed Xianxia and landed. Xianxia's relaxed appearance became more and more formal as soon as he landed. Then he walked toward the houses in the center of the island. Even he was like this, causing Miss Mu, who was following behind, to become even more nervous. She didn't dare to breathe loudly and timidly followed. The island was so quiet that there seemed to be no one. Xianxia walked to Bai Chongqun's door and looked back at Miss Mu, who was standing a few meters away. He bowed to Bai Chongqun, who was sitting cross-legged in the house, and said, "Master, this disciple has brought the person who planted the deficient flame profound fruit. He is just outside waiting to see you. Come in." Bai Chongqun slowly opened his eyes. This ancient voice immediately caused Miss Mu's body to tremble. Although she was the demon king of Bai Chongqun, she had never seen Bai Chongqun before. However, she had heard this voice many times and it matched with this voice. Xianxia waved at her and said, "Come in. Master wants to see you." Miss Mu looked at Xianxia in panic, then lowered her head to look at the ground. She carefully followed Xianxia in, not even daring to raise her head. Feeling that she was in the right place, she immediately knelt down and kowtowed, saying, "Little demon, Miss Mu pays respect to Immortal Master." Bai Chongqun casually glanced at her, then said to Xianxia, who was standing next to him, "You have to teach her about the deficient flame profound fruit. You have to go to the South Sea as soon as possible. You can all leave." After saying these two simple words, he closed his eyes again. Xianxia, who was at the side, scratched his head and said, "Master, I have something to report to you. I killed a demon king named Yu Fengjiao when I left the island, and Miss Mu is also a demon king." "Got it, I will handle it," Bai Chongqun said with his eyes closed. Xianxia thought that he had not finished speaking, but he did not have a temper. He bowed and said, "This disciple will take his leave." After saying that, he waved at Miss Mu, indicating that she should leave with him. Miss Mu hurriedly kowtowed and said goodbye. She finally saw the appearance of the old man in front of her when she got up. She did not expect that such a thin and hale old man was the punishment envoy of the demon ghost domain. After coming out, Miss Mu's heart, which had almost stopped beating, began to beat wildly. Xianxia looked at the sun in the sky and waved in front of him, saying, "Miss Mu, come with me. We still have things to do, so we must not delay." The former demon king was like an obedient little girl, and just like that she was abducted by him to farm. In the garden of the deficient flame profound fruit, Xianxia did not give her any time to rest. He used practical actions to teach her how to take care of these things, and also told her some things that she should pay attention to on the island. In fact, it was not a difficult matter. After a while, Xianxia threw a large pile of spirit stones to her. This meant that from today onwards, the heavy responsibility of managing the deficient flame profound fruit was thrown to her, and he could wander around by himself. Then the two of them picked a place that Miss Mu felt was suitable and dug a deep pit. Miss Mu took out a miniature magnolia tree, which was her original form. After placing it in the pit, she cast a spell, and in an instant, it grew into a tall magnolia tree. It was deeply rooted in the ground, and when the breeze blew, the slender and graceful magnolia on the treetops swayed with the wind, emitting a delicate fragrance. By the time they were done, it was already late. Xianxia took off his clothes and jumped into the lake. After tossing around for a while, he went back to sleep. He was going to leave the demon ghost domain tomorrow, so he felt that he had to recuperate first. Miss Mu, on the other hand, stood under the magnolia tree all night, looking at the sparkling stars that covered the night sky. Chapter 321. The next day, Xianxia went to Bai Changchun and asked for directions to the South Sea's purple bamboo forest. After leaving, he flew south on his flying sword. Lady Mu bowed to send him off. As a ray of light flashed by, Xianxia flew at his maximum speed. He flew across the vast 1,000-mile lake and entered a dark and unfamiliar land. A cultivator flying on a flying sword suddenly entered this place, immediately alarming the demons and ghosts below. Ferocious heads appeared from the forest. Pairs of greedy eyes and the sound of saliva licking and swallowing could be heard from time to time. To the demons and ghosts here, human flesh was a legendary delicacy. They all wanted to taste it. Knowing that they couldn't catch up, the demons and ghosts unwillingly hid themselves again. There were also some who had some cultivation and some brains. When they saw that there was such an unbridled person who dared to roam the demon-ghost realm and realized that this person was coming from the direction of the 1,000-mile lake, they were slightly startled and immediately retreated. However, there were also many that were blind. Suddenly, a group of arrogant creatures jumped out from below and chased after the person. More and more people followed. "Bold human cultivator, you dare to trespass into my demon realm? Quickly stop. How bold of you, quickly stop. Quickly stop, don't even think of escaping. No one is allowed to compete with me. I'm definitely going to eat this meat." More and more shouts came from behind him, and Xianxia turned around to take a look. There were probably over 100 demons chasing after him, all of them saying that they wanted to eat him. "Great Demon King." Xianxia's eyes were cold. He coldly snorted and didn't slow down. He continued to fly forward. The commotion in the sky alarmed more and more demons. Chase, chase, chase. Hundreds of demons chasing after one person was truly a spectacular scene. Those that jumped out to chase were those with higher cultivation than Xianxia. The more they chased, the closer they got. Xianxia coldly glanced back and sneered. He formed hand seals and an azure light flashed around his body, flying at high speed with him. Suddenly, the sound of wind could be heard from both sides. More than 10 figures had already leaped past him and blocked his path in the air, all of them revealing sinister smiles. "How dare you stop me, you're courting death." Xianxia bellowed, and the hundreds of green flying swords around him stopped dancing. They immediately formed into a rectangular shape and spread out in all directions, glaring at him like a tiger watching its prey. What a bold child. He dares to barge into the demon region with a pile of scrap metal. A monster that looked neither human nor ghost rushed towards Xianxia as soon as he finished speaking. The other figures did not want to be left behind. They all shouted, "Don't snatch it, it's mine," and the like as they pounced on him. The demons dodged the sword formation and pounced forward. Xianxia shouted again, "You're courting death." With a loud explosion, the hundreds of flying swords exploded. Monstrous flames burned fiercely, and the faint green light permeated the heaven and earth, quickly devouring the demons that barged into the sword formation. The demons that were trapped in the sword formation did not even have time to escape. Ah! More than 10 miserable screams sounded at the same time. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 demons were killed. Xianxia was still flying on his sword. He did not slow down at all. He wanted to take advantage of this business trip to settle some personal matters. Naturally, he was in a hurry. Just as he passed through the green flames, he formed a few hand seals. The flames behind him quickly shrank and turned back into flying swords. However, it seemed like there was one less sword. The hundreds of demons that were chasing behind were shocked by the movement in front. Half of them ran away in fright, but the other half were still chasing. It seemed like the temptation of human flesh was too great. However, no one dared to come out. They only chased after him, hoping to find an opportunity to attack. At this moment, a dull, angry roar came from afar. The voice rolled over like thunder. "How dare you? Who is trespassing into my territory to kill?" Xianxia squinted and saw more than a dozen figures flying over in a formation of wild geese. Their speed was frightening. "What a good king. You actually dare to call yourself king in front of me. It seems that the demon domain is becoming more and more unruly." Xianxia sneered. He did not slow down and flew straight towards the approaching people. The demons chasing behind Xianxia suddenly became spirited. Someone shouted, "The demon king is coming. Everyone block him. Don't let him escape. Offer him to the demon king for a reward." The demon monarch leading the way was one of the demon monarchs that Xianxia had met in Lady Wood's village, and he had even offered a gift to Xianxia. The demon king had a profound cultivation. Before Xianxia could see him clearly, he had already seen Xianxia. The situation could be imagined. The demon king suddenly stopped in the air. His eyes widened and his jaw almost dropped. When he came back to his senses, he shouted anxiously, "All of you stop." The dozen or so people he had brought were all demon cultivators at the late stage of the crossing tribulation. However, they did not know Xianxia. When they heard this, they all stopped in confusion. They divided into two rows in the air and lined up on the left and right of the demon king. The demons behind Xianxia were still shouting excitedly. When the demon king heard this, his body trembled uncontrollably. He bowed to Xianxia and said, "Little demon Kui who greets Mr. Yu." The two rows of subordinates on his left and right were shocked. It turned out that this young man was Xianxia. They quickly glanced at the bastards who were yelling about killing, and their hearts trembled. They bowed to Xianxia, who was flying over, and said, "Greetings, Mr. Yu." Xianxia just happened to break into the two rows and finally stopped in front of the demon king. Nearly 100 flying swords fused into his body. The group of demons that were chasing after them also noticed that something was wrong. They all stopped tens of meters away and looked at each other. Xianxia turned around and glanced at them. He slowly turned back and said coldly, "Kuhu, you've seen what you need to see, right? How dare you? I won't say anything more. Don't let any of these demons who are chasing me live. If any of them escape, you can go to Obedient Island and ask for my master's forgiveness. What are you hesitating for? Are you still not going to carry it out?" Kuei-hu was awakened by Zhong Yu's last shout. He immediately realized there was still a chance. He waved his arms and ordered, "Kill. Don't let any of them live." Then he raised his head and let out a deafening roar. Responses immediately came from all directions. The long roars were coming closer and closer. He was obviously gathering people. Although the people he brought with him had high cultivation, there was a chance that some of them would slip through the net when facing hundreds of demons. At this moment, he didn't dare to be careless. If he really made a mistake and had to ask for forgiveness from the torture master, he might as well kill him. His subordinates naturally understood that this was a chance to redeem themselves. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. It was easy for the torture master to implicate others, and there was no reason for him to do so. With a teleportation, they dashed into the hundreds of demons and slaughtered them wantonly. With their cultivation at the final stage of the tribulation passing stage, they were like tigers entering a flock of sheep. "Demon King, please forgive us. Demon King, please forgive us." Ah! Cries of sorrow sounded. However, Kuei-hu's face was gloomy. He didn't feel any sympathy for them. These bastards had almost consigned him to eternal damnation. How could he not feel hatred? He wanted to tear these troublemakers apart with his own hands. Xianxia turned around and glanced coldly at the killing scene behind him. He said in a deep voice, "I have something to do under my master's orders. I can't be delayed. Kuei-hu, you will lead the way to the south. Anyone who dares to stop me will be killed." "I understand." Kuei-hu cupped his fists and bowed deeply. He then shouted, "Two of you follow me and lead the way for Mr. Zhong." With the order, two figures teleported over and flew south with Kuei-hu in a triangular formation. Xianxia followed behind them on his sword. At this moment, many people flew over from all directions and quickly joined the battle. Chapter 322. At first Kuei Hu and the other two demons flew quite fast. However, when they realized that the distance between them and Xianxia was getting farther and farther, they slowed down a lot anxiously. They formed a triangle around Xianxia, protecting him in the middle, and kept a vigilant eye on their surroundings. The three demons didn't want to see something stupid and offend Xianxia. That would be hard to explain. Xianxia naturally understood the three demons' intentions, but he was still a little depressed. Who asked him to be so weak? His flying speed was too slow and they didn't do anything wrong. Although he was escorted by three demon kings, trouble gradually came as soon as he crossed Kuei Hu's territory. Not everyone knew Kuei Hu and the other two demons, especially since the four of them didn't fly very fast. In addition, the appearance of a human like Xianxia immediately attracted the covetous eyes of many demons, and pairs of greedy eyes appeared on the ground. From time to time, a few uninvited guests would jump out to ask questions, or some self-righteous fellows would try to snatch a piece of meat from Xianxia. But how could this piece of meat be eaten so easily? The three demons had long received Xianxia's order to kill without mercy. Anyone who came, whether they were looking for trouble or not, would be killed without hesitation. They would rather kill the wrong person than let the wrong person go. Usually, the three demons would have to give face to the local demon king when they trespassed into someone else's territory. But this time they didn't worry about offending anyone. They killed whoever blocked their way without mercy. With Xianxia around, they believed that the local demon king wouldn't dare to say anything if he found out. He would probably even praise them for killing them. Think about it, under such circumstances, how many people could block the joint attack of three experts at the end of the tribulation passing stage? The three demons fought in front of them, attracting more and more demons and ghosts. However, Xianxia didn't feel that their flying speed was affected in the slightest. Once the three demons attacked, they would immediately take the opponent's life, not allowing any demons or ghosts to affect Xianxia in the slightest. This service was perfect. Kuei Hu, you've gone too far, daring to barge into this king's territory and kill the innocent. A thunderous roar came out of nowhere, shaking the dark clouds in the sky. From afar, a few silhouettes shot over with a whistling sound. With a bitter smile, Kuei Hu turned around and said, "Mr. the Golden Howler, the demon king that is in charge of this place is here. Tell him to scram and stop bothering me." Xianxia shouted in a deep voice. He had thought that with his current status, not many people would dare to stop him, and this trip should be smooth sailing. Who would have thought that all of them would proclaim themselves as kings in front of him? He was a little angry when he heard that. They didn't slow down, and Kuei Hu, who was flying in the lead, shouted, "Brother Jean, get out of the way. We will escort Mr. Yu forward. Anyone who stands in our way will be killed." His voice was also not soft, and it spread out in all directions. As soon as he finished speaking, the two sides had already arrived. The big man with golden hair was shocked when he saw Xianxia. He quickly shouted to the people around him, "Get out of the way." Then he bowed and said, "Greetings, Mr. Yu." The others were also shocked. Of course, they had heard of Xianxia, so they quickly bowed as well. Xianxia glanced at the Golden Howler, snorted and shouted to Kuei Hu, "Don't stop. Don't mind him." When they passed by each other, Kuei Hu smiled apologetically at the Golden Howler. The four of them did not slow down at all, but the Golden Howler was scared by Xianxia's snort and words. When he realized what was going on, he shouted to the people around him, "What are you waiting for? Come with me to send Mr. Yu off." They spent a lot of mana in the air and teleported a few times to catch up with Xianxia's flying team. The Golden Howler bowed as he flew. "I didn't know it was Mr. Yu. Please forgive me. What can I do for you? I hope you can give me a chance to redeem myself." Xianxia coldly swept a glance at him, too lazy to bother with him. As a result, Golden Howler broke out in a cold sweat. He hurriedly flew to Kuei Hu for help. Kuei Hu seemed to be a friend of Golden Howler, so he said vaguely, "Sir, you are working under the order of the Torture Enforcer. When you passed through my territory, there were hundreds of small demons who offended you. I have ordered my men to kill them all. But I didn't expect there were so many ignorant demons in your territory. I had to kill them on your behalf. Please forgive me." Working under the order of the torture envoy? The golden howler's golden fur was shaking. He said, "Good job. Brother Kue, you are helping me. I won't blame you. Is there anything I can do for you?" He was not stupid. Since Yu Qianzhou ignored him, he went to Kue Hu, the leader of the team, and asked for his life to redeem himself. Kue Hu was cooperative. He pointed to the front and said, "I don't want to kill anyone in your territory. If you really want to help, why don't you lead your men to the south? That way you won't disturb Mr. Yu." Good idea, good idea. Brother Kue is right. I can't let Mr. Yu be disturbed in my territory. The golden howler waved his hand and said, "Follow me. Clear the road to the south. No one is allowed to fly except Mr. Yu's group. Anyone who disobeys will be killed." His words were full of murderous intent. It seemed he was talking to Yu Qianzhou. The few demons followed the golden howler and flew forward. But before they got far, they ran into someone who wanted to slap his face. Didn't he say no one was allowed to fly? 3 demons were flying over. When they saw the golden howler, they bowed and bowed to him, which made the golden howler scream in anger. He waved his arms, and his palms instantly became like 2 gigantic bear paws, golden fur shining brightly. With a loud bang, the 2 giant palms clapped together and immediately smashed the leading demon into meat paste. The remaining 2 monsters were torn to pieces by Golden Growler's subordinates without any reason. Blood sprayed through the air. The golden howler roared and led the other monsters without stopping. They quickly flew to the south and issued warnings everywhere they went. Just like that, Han Sen flew south, passing through one territory after another. He flew from day to night and from night to day. Along the way, he encountered things similar to what happened in Golden Growler's territory. As a result, the demon kings and ghost kings passing by the territory were all startled. In the end, there was a group of demon kings and ghost kings escorting Yu Qianzhou. There were over 100 of them, and the commotion was truly huge. However, Yu Qianzhou's face was dark. He didn't say anything, which made the demon kings and ghost king nervous. After 2 days of flying, they finally arrived at the southern border of the demon region. Yu Qianzhou knew they couldn't cross the border. Otherwise they would be killed, so he asked everyone to land. At this time, Yu Qianzhou smiled and said to the demons and ghosts, "Thank you for sending me off. The outside world is not a place you can go. Please go back." Seeing that Yu Qianzhou didn't seem to want to pursue the mistakes of the territories, they were relieved. They bowed and said, "Sir, have a safe journey. We will take our leave now." Yu Qianzhou nodded and said nothing. He rode his sword and flew to the bright world outside. Once he was out of the demon region, he traveled for 100 miles. Suddenly he saw waves crashing on the shore and seagulls flying. In front of him was a vast sea with blue waves. He landed directly on a clean beach in the middle of the jagged rocks and looked around furtively. He took out a silver ball and stuffed it into the crevice of a rock. Then he swayed around and looked around. He had been away from the secular world for nearly 2 months. He didn't know what had happened outside. He was a little anxious and wanted to go back for a long time. However, he guessed that since Bai Chongqun could control the entire demon region, he might be discovered if he suddenly disappeared in the demon region. With the idea of safety first, he hurried on this journey without stopping. He was so far away from the demon region. He felt that there should be no problem. He suddenly flew up on his sword and plunged straight into the sea. The waves splashed, but he didn't come out. This incident reminded the demon kings and ghost king that if someone in their territory provoked Yu Qianzhou again, it would be too scary. Therefore, after returning, they quickly spread the appearance of Yu Qianzhou. In a few days, it had spread all over the demon region. Chapter 323. Utopia's Misty Palace. Yu Qianzhou walked out of his room with a grin on his face. The beauty Chu Ping'er who came out behind him still had a blush on her face and her eyes were filled with lust. When she heard the man in front of her laughing lewdly, she reached out and pinched his waist harshly. It was so painful that Yu Qianzhou grimaced in pain. However, the pain was accompanied by happiness. It was obvious that he did not do anything nice to Chu Ping'er just now. When he passed by Su Zhen's door, Yu Qianzhou paused for a moment. Then he shook his head and walked away. Ever since he passed the green destiny sword to her, she rarely came out. She was wholeheartedly focused on breaking the seal on the sword. She was always so dedicated to the tasks that he entrusted to her. Yu Qianqiu engraved every bit of Bai Suzhen's kindness in his heart. Whenever he met with setbacks and hardships, as long as he thought of her at home, that sweet-tempered and peerless face would appear in his mind. It was like a miraculous elixir that would immediately dispel his worries and give him unlimited motivation. After exiting the Misty Palace, Chu Ping brought him to a newly opened herb garden. With the mystical effects of the purple chaos, the seal-breaking technique had already produced more than 1,000 stalks in a short period of time. Dark green leaves and crystal-like branches. This mystical plant made Yu Qianqiu's mood improve greatly. He personally picked a few pears and asked Chu Ping to prepare some supplementary spirit herbs. Qin Feng, come to my place in the Misty Palace quickly. Qin Feng was in a daze inside a stone room. He was holding a brush for making talismans in his hand, but he didn't write anything on the talisman paper on the table. No one knew what he was thinking. Suddenly he received a voice transmission from Yu Qianqiu. His eyes lit up and he said, "You're finally back." He threw the brush in his hand and rushed out of the stone room in a hurry. On the top floor of the ethereal palace was the largest room. It was originally designed for Yu Qianqiu to meditate and cultivate. Unfortunately, Yu Qianqiu was always busy and rarely used this place. There were no other furnishings in the room. There was only a table, a chair, and a bed. It looked empty. Chu Pinger was arranging the spirit herbs she brought on the table according to their categories, looking very much like a wife. Yu Qianqiu stood at the side with his hands behind his back. After a while, Guan Yu and Qin Feng came together. The moment they entered, they greeted, "Boss." Then they greeted Chu Pinger. Yu Qianqiu smiled and nodded. His gaze paused when it fell on Qin Feng. Guan Yu still had that dignified appearance, but Qin Feng seemed a little different. He didn't think too much about it. He smiled and said to the two of them, "I brought something good back this time. Take a look." Then he walked to the table filled with spirit herbs and stretched out his palms. A faint green flame suddenly appeared in each of his palms, illuminating the whole room with that terrifying green color. Guan Yu and Qin Feng were shocked. What kind of magic art was this? They looked at each other and didn't know what he was going to do. Yu Qianqiu didn't explain. He stretched out his arms and the green flame on his palms instantly swelled up. The demonic green color slowly faded until it became almost transparent. One could only faintly feel some green shadows. If one didn't pay attention, who would notice that there were 2 balls of flame on his palms? After estimating that the temperature was about right, Yu Qianqiu said, "Pinger, throw the spirit herbs." Chu Pinger had already been instructed. She immediately threw the 2 spirit herbs on the table towards Yu Qianqiu's palms. The moment the spirit herbs entered the almost invisible flame, they instantly melted into a paste. Guan Yu and Qin Feng were shocked. What a powerful flame! They couldn't feel the slightest bit of temperature from standing at the side, but it was able to melt the spirit herbs in the blink of an eye. It was obvious that Yu Qianqiu could control the temperature of the flame at will. Chu Pinger was also shocked. It was the first time she saw her man's fire art. The flame was almost invisible. The only thing that could be seen was the 2 balls of paste on his palms. Suddenly, the 2 balls of paste started to spin rapidly. The impurities were constantly thrown out and rose to the top of the transparent flame. They turned into ashes and floated away. Guan Yu couldn't understand the mystery behind it, but Qin Feng's eyes lit up. He was now an expert in this field. He naturally understood what it meant to be able to control the flame at will for alchemy. After the 2 balls of paste were removed, they turned into 2 balls of sparkling liquid. One was glowing red and the other was glowing purple. They quietly sank into Yu Qianqiu's palms. Yu Qianqiu smiled and said, "Recently I obtained 2 rare spirit herbs. They look the same, but one is real and one is fake. One is male and one is female. Together they are known as real and fake spirit herbs. This purple one is the female real spirit herb, and the red one is the male fake spirit herb." Pinger, throw again. The last sentence was directed at Chu Pinger. Another 2 spirit herbs were thrown in. Just like the spirit herb, they first melted and had their impurities removed. Then they turned into sparkling liquid. Yu Qianqiu said again, "Throw again." He repeated this action 9 times with Chu Pinger. The different colored liquids in Yu Qianqiu's palms were like exquisite pagodas. They piled up into 9 layers and released a brilliant light. Qin Feng watched carefully. I want to concoct a real and fake limit-breaking pill. Now is the crucial step before the pill is completed. You must remember this. I don't have time, so I'll leave it to you to concoct in the future. Yu Qianchou said to Qin Feng seriously. Qin Feng's eyes widened and he nodded repeatedly. He really couldn't understand how Boss could always get good recipes for alchemy. As soon as he finished speaking, the 9 balls of different colored liquids started moving in the transparent flame. They shone brightly like stars in the universe, enchanting and dazzling. At this moment, one of the balls of crystal suddenly collided with another ball of crystal. The 2 balls mixed together and spun rapidly. The color was a little murky at first, but after they gradually fused, a single light appeared. As soon as this larger ball of crystal liquid calmed down, another 2 balls started stirring. Although Chu Ping'er and Guan Yu had seen people concoct pills before, they had never seen anyone concoct pills without using an alchemy furnace. They could clearly see every movement in front of them. The splendor of the combination were simply dazzling. The unrestrained agitation, the instantaneous heartbreak, the tactful wrapping, the fusion at all costs, the passion and desolation were all in silence. After seeing it, one would know that the flying meteors and the dazzling fireworks were nothing more than this. The 2 of them were a little obsessed as they watched. Qin Feng smiled bitterly. Boss was indeed boss. Once he made a move, he had to admit that he was inferior to him. That kind of carefree and easy movement and that kind of beauty was something that he could never hope to achieve. Moreover, he was doing 2 things at the same time, concocting 2 cauldrons of pills at the same time. The spiritual liquid of the restriction-breaking grass floated peacefully at the top. When a 4-colored ball of spiritual liquid appeared below, the spiritual liquid at the top also started to move. Moreover, it spun faster and faster. Suddenly, 4 drops of liquid were thrown out, and they were all absorbed by the 4-colored ball of liquid below at the same time. The 4-colored ball of liquid was originally as calm as a virgin, but at this moment, its heart was stirred and its color changed. The ball of liquid at the top saw that it wasn't tempting enough, so it threw out 4 more drops of liquid, as if it was determined to change the heart of the 4-colored ball of liquid below. In the end, it exhausted itself and completely changed the color of the 4 balls of liquid. The 4 blobs of liquid whose temperament had changed greatly suddenly seemed to have gone crazy. They chased each other, drawing out streaks of shining arcs, and then collided with each other without any regard for anything else. In the end, they became indistinguishable from one another, turning into a lump. Only then did they stop fighting and slowly revolve. Although they were contained together, they were half-hearted and their colors were mixed up. However, there was a mysterious force that wanted to interfere, forcing them to spin faster and faster. The liquid on Yu Qianchou's left hand had completely turned red, and the liquid on his right hand had completely turned purple. The rapid spinning caused the liquid on his left and right hand to separate into 10 balls of equal size. The world on his palms didn't seem to be impatient, and it was willing to accept the arrangements of fate. When Yu Qianchou put away the flames and grabbed a handful of pills in each hand, Chu Ping'er and Guan Yu, who were watching, suddenly let out a sigh of relief. This scene of concocting pills made the 3 of them feel as if they were watching a pantomime. Although it was silent, the ups and downs and the thrill of it were clearly portrayed. How was this concocting pills? Qin Feng couldn't close his mouth for a long time. Chapter 324. When Yu Qianchou saw the dumbfounded expressions of the 3 people, he couldn't help but feel a little proud of himself. The fire had already fused with him, so his ability to control fire was not just for show. He had never heard of anyone who didn't use an alchemy furnace to concoct pills. He reckoned that such an awesome alchemy technique was the first in the cultivation world. Guan Yu stroked his beard and exclaimed in admiration, clicking his tongue. Chu Ping'er, on the other hand, had a complacent look on her face. She gently hugged Yu Qianchou's arm with a happy look on her face. She naturally wanted her man to be as powerful as possible. It would be best if he could beat all the men in the world. Qin Feng was so anxious that he was scratching his head and ears, and his heart was itching. It would have been fine if he hadn't seen it, but since he had seen it, how could he endure it? After all, he was also a person who was infatuated with this profession. He immediately hugged Yu Qianchou's arm and begged, "Boss, how did you release this fire? Quick, teach me." Yu Qianzhou's right arm was enjoying the warmth of Chu Ping'er's embrace. He was very proud. Suddenly his left arm was hugged by Qin Feng like a woman. What was going on? He suddenly felt goosebumps all over his body. He waved his hand and flung Qin Feng's arm away. His eyes revealed a disgusted expression and he said, "Is my arm for a man to hug? You're a man, why are you acting like a woman? Disgusting, don't touch me." Qin Feng's face was full of endless grievance. Guan Yu and Chu Ping'er couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Alright, I don't have much time. I still have something important to tell you." As soon as Yu Qianzhou got down to business, Chu Ping'er immediately let go of his arm. A handful of restriction-breaking pills, both red and purple in color, were placed on the table. Then he grabbed 2 true and fake restriction-breaking spirit herbs and a bunch of supplementary spirit herbs. The almost transparent flame emerged from his palm again. This time Yu Qianzhou did not ask Chu Ping'er to help. Instead he threw all the spirit herbs into the flame. The flame was as long as a pillar. The 9 kinds of spirit herbs were quickly separated into 9 layers and refined at the same time. At the same time the impurities in them were removed. Then the crystal-clear liquid that looked like a 9-layered exquisite pagoda appeared again. Qin Feng's eyes almost popped out of his eye sockets. The fire released by a palm could actually be divided into 9 segments to refine the spiritual herbs at the same time. Was there really such a marvelous technique of controlling fire in this world? The other 2 might not know, but he knew how difficult it was to do so. Qin Feng's eyes lit up again. The refining method was almost the same as the previous ones. Apart from placing the true and false restriction-breaking spirit herbs together, Yu Qianzhou refined the spirit herbs at the same time in order to save time. The subsequent steps were the same. Soon, a handful of spirit pills that were as translucent as crystals were placed on the table. They were still emitting a misty white halo like mist. Qin Feng frowned. He quickly walked up to the table and grabbed the purple, red, and transparent spirit pills. He clicked his tongue and said, "The male and female restriction-breaking spirit herbs look the same, but I didn't expect them to be so amazing. Refining them separately and refining them together can actually produce a spirit pill of 3 colors. This is really mysterious." He sniffed the spirit pills and nodded. "The aroma is also different." Guan Yu also walked up to the table and looked at the spirit pills. He clicked his tongue in wonder. Chu Ping'er obviously had a soft spot for the transparent spirit pills. She would occasionally close her other eye to look at them. No one knew what she saw through the transparent spirit pills. Yu Qianzhou pointed at the spirit pills on the table and said, "The red one is called the false restriction-breaking pill, the purple one is called the true restriction-breaking pill, and the transparent one is called the restriction-breaking pill. After consuming these 3 spirit pills, as long as you have enough spirit stones, you can absorb their spiritual qi before the effects of the spirit pills dissipate. You can quickly convert the spiritual qi into true essence and quickly increase your cultivation level. If you also have a spirit pill that can help you break through a bottleneck, you can break through to the early stage of tribulation passing in a short period of time. After that, there will be no effect and you will have to rely on your own cultivation." Hearing this, the 3 of them were all shocked. Guan Yu looked at the spirit pills in his hand and said, "There are such magical spirit pills in this world? This is simply incredible. Since they all have such miraculous effects, why do these spirit pills have 3 colors and are called the restriction-breaking pill, the true restriction-breaking pill, and the false restriction-breaking pill? There must be a difference, right?" Qin Feng was indeed a professional and immediately grasped the crux of the problem. Yu Qianzhou looked at him with approval and said with a smile, "The restriction-breaking pill will not have any side effects after helping you break through to the tribulation passing stage. Although the true restriction-breaking pill can help you break through to the tribulation passing stage, it will accumulate a strange poison in your body that is almost impossible to remove. In the future, no matter how hard you cultivate, your cultivation level will be limited to the late stage of tribulation passing stage. You will never have the chance to break through to the soul formation stage. Isn't that the same?" Guan Yu picked up a purple spirit pill and said with a smile, "It's already very good to be able to cultivate to the late stage of tribulation passing stage. The soul formation stage is just a legend. I haven't heard of anyone breaking through to the soul formation stage in the current cultivation world." Qin Feng and Chu Ping'er nodded in agreement. Yu Qianzhou smiled faintly and said, I recently became the disciple of a new master. The three of them were stunned when they heard this. They didn't know why he suddenly said this. Guan Yu's expression was a little twitching as he smiled and said, "That? Cough cough. Boss, why did you become the disciple of another master? It seems that changing masters in the cultivation world is a disgraceful thing. You're already the third one, right? If this gets out, I'm afraid your reputation won't be good and you'll be easily condemned by the cultivators in the world." Condemned my ass. Whoever wants to condemn me can condemn me. Yu Qianchou sneered to express his disdain. He looked at the three of them and said proudly, "My master is amazing. Didn't Yunchang say that the soul formation stage is just a legend? Hehe. I'm really sorry, but my master is a soul formation stage cultivator." What? Say that again. Guan Yu and Qin Feng exclaimed in unison. They both thought they had heard wrong. Chu Ping'er and Bai Suzhen had heard the story of the demon ghost realm torture enforcer from Yu Qianchou, so they already knew that soul formation stage cultivators really existed in this world. Naturally, there was nothing to be surprised about. Yu Qianchou looked at the two shocked guys and said mockingly, "Not only is my master a soul formation stage cultivator, he's also a soul formation final stage cultivator. Whoever doesn't become the disciple of such an awesome master is an idiot." Really? The two of them exclaimed in unison again. Yu Qianchou nodded to the two of them with certainty and said, "Do I look like someone who would lie to you? Why don't you think about it? Do I care about ordinary tribulation passing stage cultivators, even those at the final stage? It's even more impossible for me to become their disciple." The two of them stood there in disbelief. Yu Qianchou waved his hand in disdain and sneered. "Two ignorant idiots. Is a soul formation stage cultivator worth such a big reaction from you? Let me tell you, there are many soul formation stage cultivators in this world. It's just that most of them don't interact with ordinary cultivators, so not many people in the cultivation world know about them. After I go out this time, I'm going to visit another soul formation mid-stage cultivator." The two of them still stood there motionlessly. They probably wouldn't be able to recover for a while. After all, this was something that subverted their worldview. It was very hard for them to accept. Chu Ping'er looked at Yu Qianchou with admiration. She picked up the red spirit pill and asked, "Then what's the use of this fake limit-breaking pill?" "That's for the enemy to eat. Whoever eats it, once their cultivation reaches the tribulation passing stage, they will immediately wither and die." Yu Qianchou said indifferently, but Chu Ping'er was shocked. She immediately threw the red spirit pill back on the table, afraid that she would be poisoned and grow old. Women. What they were afraid of was aging. The sound of the red spirit pill bouncing on the table made Guan Yu and Qin Feng come back to their senses. The two of them looked at each other and shook their heads. Guan Yu sighed. "Boss, you didn't call me here just to watch you refine pills, right? Did you want to let the triad members take the limit-breaking pill?" "Smart." Yu Qianchou gave him a thumbs up and asked Qin Feng, "Qin Feng, did you see the steps clearly? I have a lot of things to do, so I'll have to rely on you in the future." "Yes, I saw it clearly." "That hehe." Qin Feng smiled embarrassedly. "If boss could teach me that fire control technique, it would be great. I'm sure it would be easier to refine the limit-breaking pill." "No." Yu Qianchou refused bluntly. "It's not that I'm stingy, but this fire control technique is very powerful. It's my trump card. I won't teach it to anyone for now. Besides, I'm not teaching it to you now for your own good. You'll understand when the time comes." In fact, there was something in his heart that he didn't say out loud. "I'll teach it to someone when I'm sure it won't threaten my safety. Otherwise, I won't do it even if you beat me to death. This is my patent." He said it so bluntly, but Qin Feng wasn't unhappy because of his refusal. He just smiled enviously. He looked at the three-colored spirit pill on the table and asked, "Boss, since that red one is poisonous, there's no need to refine it. We can't use it anyway." "Who said we can't use it?" Yu Qianchou glared at him. "Just focus on refining it. I'll naturally give it to someone who needs it. I have a big show to perform. Don't be lazy and ruin my plans." Chapter 325. No. Qin Feng patted his chest and promised, "As long as we have the spiritual herbs, it won't be a problem for you." Yu Qianchou gave him a look that said he didn't dare to believe him. Guan Yu frowned and interrupted, If the limit-breaking pill really has such a magical effect, it will be a good thing. The problem is that it's a bit troublesome to break through the bottleneck. We have the Foundation Establishment Pill, the Spirit Pill for breaking through to the Core Formation stage, and the 7-star Blood Orchid Fruit for breaking through to the Nascent Soul stage. But what about the Crossing Calamity stage? In the first group of our heroes, there are many late-stage Nascent Soul stage members. They are the backbone of our 6 regiments. It's necessary to let them break through to the Crossing Calamity stage first. Otherwise, when the other members catch up, it will affect their prestige in the army. Besides, the others will break through to the Crossing Calamity stage sooner or later. Guan. We have the recipe for the spirit pill that can break through the bottleneck. Boss gave it to me a long time ago. We also have the other spiritual herbs, but we don't have the main ingredient, colorful Ganoderma. If we have this treasure, we won't even need the Foundation Establishment Pill anymore. It can be used from the Qi Refinement stage to the Crossing Calamity stage. Qin Feng looked at Yu Qianzhou with a smile and said, Boss is very resourceful. I've never seen anything that you can't get. I think you have a way to solve this colorful Ganoderma. Yu Qianzhou glanced at him coldly and ignored him. He asked Guan Yu, Yunchong, how many old members are there in the 6 regiments? How many of them have reached the peak of the late-stage Nascent Soul stage? Guan Yu thought for a moment and said, excluding those who died in battle, there are less than 200 old members. But most of them are at the late-stage Nascent Soul stage. Most of them are at the peak of the late-stage Nascent Soul stage. There are about 100 of them. They will do as you say. Let's solve the problem of the old members first. They don't need to take the limit-breaking pill. Maybe they will have a chance to reach the soul formation stage in the future. Yu Qianzhou pondered. Guan Yu nodded. Suddenly he was startled and said, Boss, you mean, let the members of the underworld take the true restriction-breaking pill? Didn't you say that the limit-breaking pill had no side effects? Why did you make them consume the true restriction-breaking pill? Some things are not easy to decide right now. I don't know if the pill formula is true or not. I still need to test it out. Let's not talk about this first. Qin Feng. Yu Qianzhou turned around and said, I'll leave the elixirs for the 100 old members to break through to the tribulation stage to you. Other things can wait. This. Qin Feng smiled bitterly and spread out his hands. Boss, you have to give me the rainbow Lingji first. Yu Qianzhou ignored him. Instead he nodded at Chu Pinger. Chu Pinger glared at Qin Feng and left. Who asked that guy to make things difficult for her man? The couple spoke in riddles, causing Guan Yu and Qin Feng to be confused. After a while, Chu Pinger came back and threw something on the table. She said to Qin Feng in annoyance, Is this the rainbow Lingji you wanted? A 7-colored Lingji mushroom the size of 2 palms was swaying on the table. Qin Feng rubbed his eyes in disbelief and walked over to the Lingji mushroom to examine it carefully. After confirming that there was no mistake, he looked at Guan Yu awkwardly and said with a twitching expression, Old Guan, it really is a 7-colored Lingji mushroom. He really didn't expect that such a precious spiritual herb would appear so easily. It really made him speechless. Although Guan Yu was confused before, after seeing it, he didn't feel that there was anything to be surprised about. He was already used to the surprises that Yu Qianzhou gave him. Just think about it. All the spiritual herbs in Utopia had been single-handedly gathered by this guy. The variety was so abundant that it made one's hair stand on end. Even the major sects in the world of cultivators could not compare to it. He really didn't know what this guy was doing outside all day long to gather all the good stuff. Guan Yu believed that if he were to do it, he definitely wouldn't have the ability to do it. Sometimes, even if the conditions were the same or even better, he wouldn't be able to do anything without the ability. He was full of admiration. This was something that Guan Yu often sighed about in his heart, even though he didn't say it out loud. Rare spirit herbs, priceless pill recipes, seemingly inexhaustible spirit stones, an ocean's worth of cultivation manuals, and the occasional cultivation seedlings with spiritual roots. All of these were brought back by this guy alone. In the beginning, Guan Yu had thought that it was luck. However, after interacting with him for the past few years, he had completely changed his mind. Although this guy often acted like a gangster and seemed to be fooling around at a young age, he was actually far-sighted and had the spirit of a superior. He had managed to support such a huge family business through all sorts of nonsense. He had gathered people to build an army and constantly improved the training of the army. He had gathered spirit herbs to open up a spirit herb plantation. He had strongly supported Qin Feng's pill refinement and equipment refinement. He had reclaimed wastelands to be self-sufficient. There was also a series of security measures. All of these showed that this guy was making arrangements and preparing to do something big. Otherwise, no one would do all these things without any benefits because it was meaningless. Guan Yu had reason to believe that it was definitely dangerous for him to be able to gather so many things. It was possible that this guy was also making arrangements outside. He believed that when this army was officially revealed, the mystery would be revealed. There's no need to doubt it. It's a genuine rainbow, Lingji. Yu Qianchou snorted coldly. You'll get plenty of spirit herbs. Don't drag me down when it comes to logistics. Hehe. Qin Feng laughed awkwardly. I already knew that boss has remarkable abilities. Sure enough, I've been proven once again. Don't give me that. Yu Qianchou rolled his eyes and waved his hand. He turned around and said to Guan Yu, Yunchong, find a few members who have just reached the early stage of foundation building, early stage of core formation and early stage of nascent soul. I want to test if the effect of the limit-breaking pill is the same as what's recorded in the pill recipe. This. Guan Yu looked at the spirit pills on the table hesitantly. Yu Qianchou saw through his concerns and knew that he cared for his subordinates. He smiled and said, Don't worry. I won't let them take the red or white ones. I'll only give them the purple limit-breaking pill. Other than testing the effect, I also want to know the ratio of spirit stones used so that I can be prepared. Guan Yu frowned. Boss, didn't you say that the limit-breaking pill has side effects and will hinder their cultivation? Why don't you just give them the limit-breaking pill without side effects? Qin Feng and Chu Ping also looked at Yu Qianchou in confusion. Yu Qianchou smiled. It's too early to talk about this. When the results are out, I'll tell you the reason. Don't ask too much. I don't have much time. Go. Guan Yu nodded helplessly and left. After he left, Yu Qianchou once again picked out spirit herbs from the table and made a few more limit-breaking pills. Then he put away the spirit herbs and the red and white spirit pills. All that was left were a few dozen purple limit-breaking pills. After waiting for some time, Guan Yu came in with 3 people. Their cultivations were exactly the 3 levels that Yu Qianchou mentioned. Yu Qianchou didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This Guan Yu was really protective of his subordinates. Yu Qianchou clearly said that he wanted a few people, but Guan Yu only brought 1 of each cultivation level. It was as if he was afraid that Yu Qianchou would harm his subordinates. Aren't they my subordinates? Leader. When the 3 of them saw Yu Qianchou, they gave a standard military salute. The 3 of them looked very excited. To be able to receive a personal audience with the leader was a supreme honor in the entire army. Especially in the ethereal palace where the leader lived. It wasn't a place that just anyone could enter. It was enough to show off to the team when they returned. After a long period of political brainwashing, the performance of the 3 of them could be said to have satisfied Yu Qianchou. All of you relax. Don't be so nervous. Yu Qianchou waved his hand and smiled amiably. He had the demeanor of a leader. However, the 3 of them saluted Qin Feng and Chu Ping. To the 3 of them, the people in this room were the big shots of Utopia. It was really an honor to be received by so many big shots at the same time. Ahem. Yu Qianchou cleared his throat and pointed at the elixirs on the table. He said solemnly, Do the 3 of you see this? These are some newly refined elixirs. After consuming them, no matter how much spiritual energy one absorbs, it can quickly be converted into true essence. It can quickly increase one's cultivation level. These elixirs will soon be distributed to everyone in the army. Before that, I specially asked your instructor to pick 3 people of different cultivation levels. In the end, your instructor chose you. This is your honor. In order to find out how many spirit stones are needed for each elixir at each cultivation level, and in order to facilitate the distribution of elixirs and spirit stones, this elixir trial task will be handed over to the 3 of you to complete. Tell me, are you confident that you can complete it? Yes, the 3 of them replied in unison. I was originally at the early nascent soul stage, but now I have broken through to the middle nascent soul stage. It is simply incredible to have such a miraculous spirit pill. As he spoke, his face was still filled with irrepressible excitement. Think about it, even in the big sects outside, if you want to break through from the early Yuaning stage to the middle Yuaning stage, it would take at least a few decades for those with good aptitude, and this was still under the condition that there were enough spirit stones. But for those with poor aptitude, it was needless to say that it would be good if they could break through in 100 years, and some would not be able to take a step forward in their lifetime. But he did it in a short 10 hours. How could he not be excited? Not bad, not bad. Yu Qianzhou nodded and smiled. He then asked the two people behind him, "How are you two?" The one in the middle also replied excitedly, "Leader, I was originally at the early core formation stage, but now I have broken through to the middle core formation stage." The last person nodded and said, "I have also broken through from the early foundation building stage to the middle foundation building stage." "Good, your performance is not bad. Go back first." Yu Qianzhou smiled. "Yes." The three of them bowed and handed over their storage pouches. Who knew that Yu Qianzhou would wave his hand and smile? "Take it back, this is your reward." The three of them looked at each other and bowed again. "Thank you, leader." Then they walked out in a line. After the three of them left, Qin Feng rushed to the table and grabbed the purple spirit pill. He exclaimed, "Oh my God! As long as I have enough spirit stones, I can break through to the next level in 4 hours. This is too magical, too magical." He turned around and waved the 2 spirit pills in his hand. He shouted, "Boss, if that's the case, as long as we make enough spirit pills, doesn't that mean that everyone in Utopia will have a chance to reach the tribulation stage? Oh my God. Nearly 10,000 tribulation stage cultivators, what kind of concept is that?" Chu Ping-er and Guan Yu were also in disbelief. The two of them knew that the pill was magical, but they didn't expect it to be this magical. Yu Qianzhou shook his head and smiled bitterly. "I did this experiment to verify the records in the pill recipe. Now that I have confirmed a part of it, I believe the rest can't be fake." "Is there a problem?" Guan Yu frowned. "There's a big problem." Yu Qianzhou looked at the three of them and asked, "Did you notice how many spirit stones the three of them used just now?" Chu Ping-er answered with an N, and walked over to the spirit stone that had its spiritual aura sucked dry. She said, "I just noticed that foundation building cultivators used more than 100 high-grade spirit stones, core formation cultivators used more than 3,000, and nascent soul cultivators used almost 90,000. There's a huge difference in the amount of spirit stones used for each level of cultivation. Women are more meticulous than men." Yu Qianzhou sighed and said, "Yun Chong, do you know the cultivation level of everyone in Utopia?" Guan Yu thought for a while and replied, "There are more than 2,000 people in the Qi refinement stage, nearly 4,000 in the foundation establishment stage, nearly 3,000 in the core formation stage, and nearly 800 in the nascent soul stage." Yu Qianzhou nodded and said, "According to the pill recipe, a spirit pill needs more than 100 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the early stage to the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage, more than 300 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the middle stage to the early stage of the core formation stage, about 1,000 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the late stage to the early stage of the core formation stage, and more than 3,000 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the early stage to the early stage of the tribulation stage. In other words, a person will need nearly 900,000 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the late stage of the nascent soul stage to the early stage of the tribulation stage. How many spirit stones will a person in the early stage of the foundation establishment stage need to use spirit pills to improve their cultivation level to the early stage of the tribulation stage?" Qin Feng counted with his fingers and muttered, "About 1,400 high-grade spirit stones for the foundation establishment stage, 39,000 for the core formation stage, and 1,170,000 for the nascent soul stage. Adding them all up, there's no need to count with your fingers. Even if he alone needs 1,200,000 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the early stage of the foundation establishment stage to the early stage of the tribulation stage, let's not count the others and just assume that the 4,000 foundation establishment cultivators are all in the early stage of the foundation establishment stage. How many spirit stones do you think these 4,000 people will need to break through to the early stage of the tribulation stage?" After Yu Qianzhou asked the few of them, he waved his hand and exclaimed, Nearly 5 billion high-grade spirit stones. Where are we going to get so many spirit stones all of a sudden? This is not counting the current core formation and nascent soul cultivators, let alone those in the chi refinement stage. 5 billion. The few of them were shocked by such a huge number and looked at each other. After a moment of silence, Qin Feng smiled awkwardly and said, "It's nothing. When has Utopia ever lacked money? Boss can settle it easily." Yu Qianzhou rolled his eyes and looked at him coldly. "Why don't I let you go out and give it a try? I don't need much, just give me 1 billion. No, I don't have that ability." Qin Feng waved his hand repeatedly and hid behind Guan Yu without saying a word. "What should we do then?" Chu Ping came over and gently held Yu Qianzhou's arm. "Why don't we stop this plan for now and think about it again when we have the money?" Yu Qianzhou's gloomy face immediately relaxed. Actually, it was not that he could not take out 5 billion high-grade spirit stones. Just the top-grade spirit stones alone were worth far more than that. Furthermore, he still had the divine-grade spirit stones in his hands. The key was that he treated them as his final assets. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not squander the divine-grade and top-grade spirit stones. Patting the jade-like hand on his arm, he said to Guan Yu and Qin Feng, "The plan will proceed as planned. With the current financial situation, we will first raise the cultivation of the old team members to the tribulation crossing stage. Then we will help the other nascent soul stage members. As for the remaining team members, we will slowly deal with them according to their positions in the army and their cultivation. I will think of a way to get the spirit stones. Can't the essence chi pill also increase cultivation? Can we use the essence chi pill instead of the spirit stones?" Qin Feng flashed out and asked. It seemed that he also knew that there was a big gap and wanted to help. "The essence chi pill won't work. This limit-breaking pill can only directly interact with spirit chi. Nothing else is useful. You just need to carry out the plan," Yu Qianzhou said with some helplessness. In his heart he was also muttering, could this be the chemical reaction mentioned in his previous life? Guan Yu and Qin Feng looked at each other and nodded, "Got it. So much money is needed. How are you going to think of a way?" Chu Ping said with some worry. "The Wu clan of the 4 major clans still owes me tens of millions. Hehe. They dared to renege on their debt. This money must be paid back in double." Yu Qianzhou suddenly sneered and said with a somewhat sinister expression, "If it really doesn't work, I will rob, steal and cheat. Whoever has money, I will mess with them. At most, I will become the enemy of the entire cultivation world. Anyway, there are not many good people. Who cares? In short, I cannot delay my plan." Chapter 327. Hearing his words, the 3 of them were stunned. Chu Ping said doubtfully, "That's not a good idea, right?" Guan Yu and Qin Feng exchanged glances. Based on their understanding of Yu Qianzhou, they believed that he would really do such a thing. "Hehe. I was just joking. How could I really do such a thing?" Yu Qianzhou grinned as he comforted Chu Ping. Then he said to Guan Yu and Qin Feng, who were looking down on him, "Qin Feng, hurry up with the alchemy. If you need any spiritual herbs, look for Ping. Yunchang, let's go to the military camp to take a look. I haven't been there for a long time. I wonder how the training is going." It was indeed not good to talk about cheating in front of Chu Ping as it would damage his glorious image. Yu Qianzhou found an excuse guiltily and wanted to leave. Guan Yu and Yu Qianzhou walked to the door together when they heard Qin Feng's voice behind them. "Sister-in-law, can I ask you for a favor?" The 2 of them stopped and turned around curiously, not knowing what Qin Feng wanted from Chu Ping. "What is it? Do you still need to ask me?" Chu Ping said in surprise. In her impression, Qin Feng had a lot of authority in Utopia. Moreover, Yu Qianzhou was here too. What matter couldn't he solve with Yu Qianzhou? Why did he have to look for her? Qin Feng nodded and bowed. "Sister-in-law, look at my subordinates. They are all men. I don't even have a woman who knows how to wash clothes. I, Qin Feng, am also a handsome man, but now I'm so sloppy." "Qin Feng, what do you mean? Do you want my wife to wash your clothes for you?" Yu Qianzhou immediately interrupted him. His face sank and he felt uneasy. Could it be that this scoundrel wants to hit on my woman because she's pretty? No. Boss, don't misunderstand." Qin Feng panicked. He waved his hands and said, I just want to ask sister-in-law to transfer a female guard from Ethereal Palace to help me take care of my daily life. Yu Qianqiu and Guan Yu looked at each other suspiciously. The former rubbed his chin and walked back, looking at Qin Feng with interest. Qin Feng's eyes darted around, obviously feeling a little guilty. A strange smile hung on Yu Qianqiu's face as he said to Chu Ping, pick an older and more experienced female guard from Ethereal Palace. Let her go with Qin Feng and take care of his daily life. Qin Feng hurriedly said, no need, no need. It's better for those with experience to stay in the Misty Palace. Sister Bai and sister-in-law are in need of them. I found a female guard quite diligent recently. I'll take her. This time Chu Ping and Guan Yu also noticed something. Yu Qianqiu said in a strange tone, since you have your eyes on someone, you should have said so earlier. What's her name? Just tell me and let her go with you. Qin Feng immediately showed a look of gratitude and said, her surname is Xiao. Her name is Xiao Wanqing. It turned out that Qin Feng had once seen a gloomy, beautiful woman in the Ethereal Palace. That woman was Xiao Wanqing. He did not know what was going on, but Qin Feng was stunned on the spot. Could be said that it was love at first sight. Hence he began to secretly pay attention to Xiao Wanqing. Xiao Wanqing? Yu Qianqiu muttered. His expression became a little strange. In his mind, the smiling lady who always called out Yu Qianqiu appeared. He had almost forgotten about this lady. When he came back to his senses, Yu Qianqiu sized Qin Feng up. He thought to himself, no wonder this fellow is usually sloppy, comparable to Guan Weiwu. Why does he look so different today? Turns out he tidied up and prepared for a blind date. Damn. Chu Ping saw that there was something wrong with him and asked, you know Xiao Wanqing? Yu Qianqiu sighed and said, so she is also a disciple of Fuxian Island. We used to be friends. Ping, call her over. Chu Ping nodded obediently and left. Boss is still the best. Thank you, boss. Qin Feng nodded and bowed again. That's nothing. When Xiao Wanqing gets here, I'll warn her to serve you well. If she dares to have any thoughts about you because of her vanity, or if she interferes with your work, I'll destroy her in body and soul. After saying that, Yu Qianqiu's face sank. He opened his hand and a clump of cyan flames shot out, wreaking havoc. The temperature of the room instantly rose to a frightening level. Thankfully, he was quick to retract the cyan flames. Even so, the two people at the side could feel the power that made their hearts palpitate. Qin Feng let out a strange cry. He was a little dumbfounded. Guan Yu, who was at the side, smiled. He stroked his long beard and turned to the side. Of course, if you like her. Yu Qianqiu was seriously considering. Qin Feng continued, if I like her, what will you do to her? Yu Qianqiu turned his head and said, Fei Yan, if you like her, what else can I say? This boss will naturally help you. However, I don't think you will like her either. I still have to warn her. No. Boss, please be merciful. I like her, all right? Like who? Xiao Wanqing. I can't hear you clearly. Speak louder. I like Xiao Wanqing. Qin Feng roared anxiously. He was not usually so stupid. Love made men stupid too. In the end, Yu Qianqiu's voice was even louder than his. He shouted, Qin Feng, you bastard. Don't play tricks in front of me in the future. You are still too inexperienced. If you make me angry, I will make you a bachelor for the rest of your life. Qin Feng was stunned. Although Yu Qianqiu's expression was ferocious as he glared at him, his tone was calm. Isn't it just liking a woman? What's the big deal? If you like her, then you like her. Who will fight with you? Do you really have to beat around the bush with me? Don't you know that my time is precious? Chu Ping led them in with a beaming face. It seemed like all women had the hobby of being matchmakers. Xiao Wanqing bowed to the few people in the room. Qin Feng stood there with a contorted expression. His eyebrows were a little asymmetrical. He was blissful. Yu Qianqiu waved his hand, indicating that there was no need for her to be so polite. He smiled and said, Xiao Wanqing, long time no see. Boss, what instructions do you have for me? Xiao Wanqing said respectfully. The way she addressed him had changed. The radiant smile that Yu Qianqiu was once familiar with was gone as well. There seemed to be a hint of resentment. Yu Qianqiu did not beat around the bush. He pointed at Qin Feng and said, This is Director Chen, who is in charge of our Utopia's logistics refinement. I believe you know him. From today onwards, you will be transferred to Director Chen's subordinate. You will be in charge of Director Chen's personal life. This is a very important mission. You have to take good care of Director Chen and let him manage the logistics refinement in a good mood. Director Chen has quite a good impression of you. He personally chose you. Director Chen treats you. At this point he could not continue. Why did he feel like he was forcing her to marry him? Wasn't that too much? By the side, Chu Ping-er stared at her man with widened eyes. She did not know what to feel. Guan Yu's expression twitched as he turned his head to the side. On the other hand, Qin Feng was beaming. He felt that his boss was really loyal. What he said was very professional and profound. But why did he stop? Yu Qianchou touched his nose awkwardly and said, "About that, Director Chen will tell you the details after you go with him. I won't say anything else." Xiao Wanqing did not agree or say no. She only stared straight at Yu Qianchou. After a long time she suddenly said, "Boss, you mean you want me to be Director Chen's woman in the future?" She was smart and guessed it immediately. No. You two can develop yourselves. Of course, I'd be happy to see the two of you as a couple. After Yu Qianchou said this, he almost blushed. This was no different from forcing a girl to be a prostitute. Qin Feng rubbed his hands happily on the side. Yu Qianchou glanced at him. "Faster, see. You're having fun." He wanted to kick him on the spot. He actually made his boss do such a disgusting thing. He was too inhumane. Bastard. Yu Qianchou, if you want me to be Director Chen's woman, I'll do it. Wanqing has let you down in the past. Now I'll listen to everything you say. Wanqing only needs one word from you. Will you do it or not? Xiao Wanqing's sudden words could be said to be heart-wrenching. She directly changed the way she addressed him to his name. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. 3 pairs of eyes stared at Yu Qianchou. Chu Pinger's eyes were filled with suspicion. Guan Yu pinched off a few of his long hairs and Qin Feng's eyes were almost pleading as he looked at him, afraid that he would say, "I don't want to do it." It felt like he was entrusting his lifelong happiness to his boss. Yu Qianchou's heartstrings trembled. He secretly lamented, "Xiao Wanqing, I know you have a crush on me. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Otherwise you and I might be fated. Unfortunately, I can't tolerate sand in my eyes." Seeing Qin Feng's anxious gaze, Yu Qianchou made up his mind. He clenched his teeth and said, "I can see that Director Chen likes you very much. Then you should be his woman." After saying that, he immediately said to Guan Yu, "Yun Chong, let's go to the barracks to take a look." After saying that, he walked out first. He couldn't stand Chu Pinger's inquiring gaze. It was better to hide first. When he thought of Furong and Wu Lixue outside, he felt a headache. What if these 3 women met each other? Guan Yu came out and quickly caught up to him. He asked, "Boss, what's with Xiao Wanqing saying that she let you down in the past?" "Actually, it's nothing. She's just thinking too much. I don't think she let me down in any way." Yu Qianchou sighed. "Back then I had a few friends on Fuxian Island. Xiao Wanqing was one of them. I invited them to go with me but they refused. So I forcefully detained them. Your subordinate Gu Qingyun knows about this. He's one of the parties involved. He said she let me down. Maybe it's because she rejected me." "Oh." Guan Yu's voice was filled with doubt. He was thinking of finding a chance to ask Gu Qingyun. The 2 of them had already left Misty Palace. Yu Qianchou didn't want to linger on this topic. He coughed and said, Yuntong, do you have a woman that you like? If you need me to be your matchmaker, tell me. I'll definitely support you. Unfortunately, you won't agree to the woman I want." Guan Yu's mind was filled with the image of a woman in a white robe with a gentle face that could topple cities. He snorted and said, "Ask you to be my matchmaker? No need. I don't want to meet a second Xiao Wanqing. If there's really someone I like, I'll go ask Sister Bai directly. Boss, you don't have to get involved." Hehe. Skid. I'm busy now. I'm afraid I don't have time. Yu Qianchou smiled awkwardly. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.